Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's awesome and fresh new episode of Primetime Gaming. I'm your host, Mr. Boomstick XL, and of course, as you can tell, I'm super stoked to be here. We have an amazing show lined up for you with, of course, incredible guests, as well as our regular panel. So let's get right into the introductions so we can actually get this show on the road. We'll start off with So Shady. First of all, Shady, thank you so much for being here, dude. You are obviously someone that I enjoy working with, and it's so much so that you're on 2 shows weekly. And of course, you have been giving people the business for years on Twitter, and we hope that never changes. Welcome, and thanks for being here, dude.
Yeah, it's not a problem, Boom. It's my pleasure, to be honest, to come here each and every week and talk games with yourself, the regular panel, and the special guests we have all the time. It's awesome. I love it. I can't wait for it. Let's get into it.
Well, thank you so much. And of course, next up, we have our inside man to everything GameStop. And what's great about that is he's going to be giving me the DL once the pre-orders go live for the PlayStation 5 as well as the Xbox Series X, because I'll be dropping down that money ASAP. He is also someone that I consider to be a community icon simply because he is one of the nicest guys I know and someone we're going to be sharing a Dr. Pepper with at this year's E3. Please welcome Gaming Forte.
What's up, man? Love you, man. But I'll make sure I'll shoot you that DM first. I'll give you like a 15-minute head start before I tweet it out to everybody else.
Love it.
I got you, Pat. But yeah, man, let's get the show, man. This is gonna be a good one.
Well, listen, it is going to be a good one. This is going to be, if you are an Xbox guy, if you're an Xbox gal, then I think that this show is going to be for you. But even if you love Nintendo or you fly the emerald blue flag for Sony, this show is welcoming, and I can guarantee you that you will be welcomed in this chat as well by everybody on this panel. So sit down, crack a brew or Dr. Pepper, whatever you like, and get ready for, I think, one of the best shows on Monday evening. Now, we actually have a few more people. Now, this is important because this is a gentleman that I asked, one of the first people I asked to be a part of this nighttime show that I wanted to do. And he has been gone, my God, it seems like almost over 2 months, simply because, family schedule and working schedules take precedent to a silly podcast. But we have to welcome back into the realm. You know him as the Caped Crusader, Cybernox. Welcome back, dude.
Finally, Cyber has come back to Primetime. What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Boom. Thank you so much for that intro. I'll tell you what, man, it's been too long. It feels great being back here talking games with you guys. It's a passion that we all love. Chat, I missed you guys dearly. And let's get into these topics, man. I love being here with you guys.
Well, listen, first of all, we have to say a couple of shout outs. First of all, obviously Clowns has taken some time off to care for his wife that was involved in a very serious car accident. And I have to just say a big thank you to this entire community. We all responded in kind by donating. And from what I understand, it was very successful. I'm going to add the GoFundMe if you're still interested, or maybe you missed out on wanting to help Clowns. I will add that into the show notes after the show uploads to YouTube. Of course, someone else that's missing is obviously Tempest's son. His wife has fallen ill, nothing serious, but she is on the mend and he's taking care of her. So we wish her and him, and of course all the kids, best wishes. He'll be back next week. And we do have Tim Dog from RDX, one of the loudest members of that podcast. He is actually going to be here momentarily to break down everything that's going on with the Xbox brand. And of course, we might, and I don't want to say who it is because I don't want to get people excited. We might have a special guest that he has the link. He might pop in halfway through the show, and hopefully he does. He is a big fan of the Xbox brand. As a matter of fact, he's a big supporter and proponent podcaster of the Xbox brand. So let's get into the first topic. Now, the first topic I'm going to bring up on the screen is, if there's one thing that we can all agree on, especially if you are an Xbox fan or you are a podcaster or someone that listens to a lot of these shows. All right, hold on a sec now. Wait a second. Here he is, Tim Dog, making his. Hey, Tim, what's going on, dude? Welcome.
How you doing? Can you hear me all right?
We hear you just fine, Tim. I was actually just about to start the topics, but I want to give you your proper introduction. Now, first of all, you know him as a man that if you cut him bleeds green. Not only is he a huge part of Dealer's RDX podcast each and every week, I think it's safe to say that he is the loudest. Tim Dog, welcome to Primetime Gaming, dude.
Happy to be here, Primetime Gaming. It's a pleasure to be with such active gamers and big people in the community. Just happy to be here. That's pretty much it. As far as intros, you do a great job. Thank you. Let's get down to the business, though.
Okay, well, listen, we're going to open up with this. Now, obviously, Tim, I have to go to you first because on social media the other day, you happened to be going back and forth with someone in the gaming media, and this stems from something apparently that was said by you. And thankfully, your brothers within the RDX podcast came out to defend you, and rightfully so, because I heard that show. And I kind of would just like, if you wouldn't mind, just to give the audience exactly what transpired with Forbes.
Well, when we did RDX, I think there was an article by Eric King from Forbes. Yes. That he said basically he had this clickbait title. He said Xbox X to get completely crushed by PlayStation 5, something of that. I'm
going to bring it up for you. I got it right here, Tim. Here we go. Xbox Series X versus PlayStation 5. Why Sony is about to crush. Here we go. I'll pull this out of the way. Here we go. Why Sony is about to crush Microsoft all over again. Now, obviously, I think that it's safe to say it's an editor's pick, and it had 281,000 views, which is not surprising because that is what the mainstream media does, right? They go out of their way, they put these clickbait titles out there, and they get clicks. That's what they do. And I'm curious, Tim, because you questioned this. And I got to be honest with you, it almost seems childish, if you will, that if you were someone that writes for a prominent, print, paper like sports, that you would actually go after someone that's a podcaster. I mean, I think that's not only childish, but it just goes to show you that maybe, just maybe, these journalists, and don't want to throw everybody under one umbrella. I won't do that. But a lot of these younger journalists, obviously, instead of writing to give an opinion on something, it seems like that they're pushing a narrative. Would you agree with that, Tim?
Well, when I talked to him, we actually had a pretty decent conversation. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because he did come off at first being very argumentative, but after I made my points, he was less angry and he was less. He even said that he's sorry if it came off a little harsh.
Okay.
As far as what I was saying is that when this article came out, the crushed Sony, I knew from Forbes's the way they do this and the way they did this last gen, they usually will have an equally, clickbaitish, outlandish headline for the other opposing view. And sure enough, I said that on RDX that I said, expect that to happen here. And sure enough, it happened. And then I pointed it out. And then I think, the editor got a little annoyed that I pointed it out and I had a lot of traction because I didn't tag him at first. And then it was like 300 retweets later,
Yikes.
that he was like, he started to come at me. But he pretty much admitted that he gets paid by clickbait. Like
Of course he does.
So I have to give him a little bit of a little bit of respect that he was pretty much honest about where he was coming from. But his thing was like, I'm just showing both ways. You have to read the article. My thing was, well, this is the pattern that you guys do. You do a clickbait article on one end and you have a headline, and you do it on the other thing. I didn't say anything other than that. And it became, well, you're a fanboy, and and I didn't even dispute anything in the articles that are written. I just said this is what they do, and that's exactly what they do. And they were the first to start that. And you see other publications like doing it as well. They'll say one side, and then they'll give the opposing view the next week. But it was just it got a little testy, but I'll give him credit. He talked to me, and he didn't block me, and he didn't say, you're a fanboy, go, go in a hole. He said, basically he just said, this is the point of views. You can't really argue either side. And one of the sides is that Sony has exclusive games, and the other side is that Xbox has Game Pass and how great a value that is to gamers. But the bottom line is, and I think that even he said it, people don't read these articles. They go by the headlines.
They read about maybe 15 seconds of it, and they just click off of it. Yeah.
And that's the truth. And that's what their analytics tell them. But that's really what is happening. And they take that article, and what people do is they take that article and they find the latest and greatest fanboy, whether it be Tim Dog or if it's on the Sony tide, JTech, and they throw it at them, and they say, "Hey, you look at you look stupid. Look at this." And what happens is that then both of those people start talking about the article, and then everyone's talking about the article, and everyone's fighting about the article. And guess what? The guy has 278,000 views. How could you argue that from his perspective?
Yeah,
that he's not doing his job. But that comes into the to the area of what as a journalist, what you think is ethically right and what's wrong. That's another argument. But for clickbait and what it does, it's a seller. That's the bottom line, and I think this proves it.
Before I let you go, listen, first of all, thanks for sharing that with us, Tim, because obviously we didn't get a chance to talk pregame, and I kind of didn't want to just back into a corner by asking you, obviously, if you would have said, hey, listen, boom, I don't want to talk about it, I would have, of course, respected that. But here's my question to you, Tim. Obviously this generation is 6 years plus, and listen. You'll never hear me say Microsoft didn't shoot themselves in both big toes, and which is why they limped through this generation. There's no denying that the messaging and the marketing was poor. Okay, we're not going to go back to 2013, but we're gonna. What my question to you is, as someone who is on one of the probably the best Xbox podcasts. Not only on YouTube, but I'm just talking about on the interwebs. I mean, Dealer is an amazing person. You are part of an amazing crew. I mean, everybody on the team that you're on is just a standout, no doubt about it. My question to you, and this is because I respect everyone on there, including your opinion, with the way the media uses these hit pieces, if you will, to sell clicks, do you think that it's going to be another one-sided, affair come the next generation, or do you think that because everything Microsoft has done post E3 2018, the media absolutely has no choice but to kind of do a 50-50 split?
Well, I'll tell you this much: I think Xbox has put themselves on even footing going into the generation. So, will there be bullshit? Probably, but the bottom line is that it's going to come down to how these consoles are unveiled or revealed, how they go about it, how they message it, you know, they go fully into this. Now, usually within generations, there's always somebody who's stepping on, you know, they're stepping on their other foot and they're making a mistake. If somebody does that this generation, they're going to be you know, called out, and they're going to be, you know, ridiculed. But as far as one-sided, I think it's more or less depends on how they go into this. This is why I think even Xbox has you know, said that this is all about execution now on their part. They need to get the message right. They need to put it out there. They need to come in comparatively with price. They are definitely the underdog going in. Sony has an upper hand here. But as long as they don't screw up, or they don't say stupid things, or they don't do, give people a wide open, wide opening, an area to just go at them, I think that they'll be okay. But the question is that can they do that? A lot of times they kind of stumble, or they've had issues with this in the past. And I do think that there is I think people in the media kind of want, or they're a little bit behind Sony just for the fact that it's more popular. So
Yes.
Being that it's more popular, it's going to get that little, if Xbox messes up or Sony puts out something that's unbelievable, there's going to be cheering, and there's going to be, people from the rafters saying unbelievable. But that's why I've talked about power, and I said how important it is for Xbox to get that power narrative, no matter what. It's just for them to keep their even ground, because, as you know, now we know that with the start of last generation, Xbox screwed up messaging, they screwed up on price, they screwed up on power.
Yeah.
But the thing is that once the pricing went away and that Kinect went away, there was this 3-year lull of power. Well,
it was the
180ps
became a big deal.
The resolution gate and all that was exemplified until Xbox One X literally was leaked. That stuff went away within years.
Yes.
So if Xbox can keep the power narrative, I think that's a way of them to, one of the things that they can get a sticking point. If they lose power, guess what? There's going to be a premium put on that, and it's going to be something that's nudged at Xbox. But I think that they're good in that area. But that's why I had said it since 2018. They can never get themselves in a situation where they're underpowered to the competition again, just because of the climate and what's going on. And believe me, everyone is hung up on power. You see all these fake insiders. You see these insiders all over the place.
I love it.
Going crazy each day. Teraflop numbers going up and down. Teraflops going up to 72 teraflops, down to 8 teraflops. It's been crazy, and that's because people, the enthusiasts, want the most powerful system.
It's funny you should say that, because you're absolutely right, Tim. There has been a narrative in the last 10 days, give or take, and I read anywhere between, and I'm being modest, probably 20 to 40 articles per week, preparing for the 3 live shows. And I read them to the end. I don't read the headlines and even the clickbait ones. I read them because you want to get an insight to what's going on, and that's why I go out of my way to quote exactly where I'm pulling stuff from. And later on, the next topic is we're gonna be talking about AMD's Zen 2 and what that exactly means. But so Shady, I want to go to you next, dude, because obviously you yourself have been very vocal about the way the media has treated the Xbox, but more specifically the Xbox fans. Obviously, when a publication, and I'm not going to mention anybody because I'm not looking to start World War III. You know who I'm talking about. They seem to pick on the Xbox players, and somehow we are the nuts, if you will, of the industry. But no one ever calls out, Sony for some of the horrific things that the extremists, I like to call them, have done and said. It seems like it goes unpunished, or even no one talks about it. But Shady, in your opinion, someone that plays everything, someone that enjoys gaming as a whole, Do you feel that if Microsoft continues, like Tim was saying, to relinquish this power crown, do you think that the media has to play fair in the next generation?
I don't think so at all, and I don't think they're going to either. They've been rewarded for far too many years by essentially perpetuating the fanboy war. You don't get clicks by just reporting the news these days. That's boring. If it's something like, this game is coming to Xbox Game Pass, that's not the news they're going to put in the headline. It's this game comes to Xbox Game Pass, but is it enough to turn the tides against Sony? Like, that's how they word literally everything. Whether or not they're personal, super fans of the brand themselves, maybe, whether it's Sony being hardcore on advertising and buying up all the marketing rights for games. Therefore, when a new hot game comes out, IGNs and Kotakus and the GameSpots and everything are all blasted with Sony marketing. Sony's paying the bills for these big sites on a lot of things because they're run by advertising. Still, as much as the clicks drive revenue for these guys, it is still that gigantic, half a page advertisement to the new hotness that just dropped. That's pretty penny when you're IGN, But I don't expect anything to change at all. They've been rewarded for far too long for what they're doing. Sony is certainly the more popular brand as well. So by skewing things a little bit that direction, you'll have the bigger fan base clicking in to see what's new on the brand and the platform they enjoy. And then you'll have Xbox guys clicking in to defend the brand that they enjoy and questioning why it's slanted in such a way. And then you have the fan bases going back at each other in the comments a million times, which reloads the page, which reloads all the ads ad hominem, right? Like, I just don't expect anything to change outside of the actual narratives that they choose to focus on. Instead of being resolution, because Sony no longer is the top dog on resolution, we'll have something else. If this SSD is 50% faster and it's loading games a few seconds faster, full blown expect that to be in every single review. All of a sudden is, oh, you could buy it on Xbox, but you'll be sitting for 4 seconds longer in each load. I'm like, what are you gonna do? I mean, and we've already seen that narrative with the zealot fanboys on Twitter and whatnot in a time period where today the Xbox One X is outloading the base consoles by as high as 30 seconds plus. When I play Anthem and stuff, the guys on the base consoles are obvious because they load into the match that we're all loading into together 30 seconds behind me. I'm sitting there twiddling my Javelin's thumbs, waiting. Same with Destiny, same with a bunch of games. 30-second difference. No one gives a shit. It's not mentioned anywhere. Meanwhile, when Sony did have the Power Crown, you could not find a review on a major site that didn't bring up the fact that it was a less resolution and maybe the frames weren't as steady on the Xbox. Every single review mentioned it. The Xbox One X came out, absolutely annihilated that narrative. It's not brought up anymore. Now it's no longer, hey, the Xbox has more of a resolution, and it's not the same more. It's way, way more resolution than
I agree.
consoles. But who gives a shit? It loads way faster. Who cares? They just don't push what is general news. They're not journalists anymore. They're just bloggers that work at a popular website. That's all it is. They're no better than us. They have different connections because of the big corporations they work for and a lot of eyes on them. But the actual dudes out there and dudettes doing real journalism in today's gaming atmosphere is few and far between. It's extinct almost.
Yeah, I would agree.
That headline and get a nice thumbnail going to get people to come in. Who cares if they read your article or not? They've already clicked. You've already got your monetization done. I just don't think anything is going to change. It's going to come down literally to something as petty as what shade of black they made these consoles and what type of finish they used. If they have to, they'll do anything they can to keep this going, because news alone, no matter how awesome it is as a gamer to hear it, it's not enough for these sites to generate the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of clicks that they get by picking one side and just a little bit, just a tiniest bit, even if it's only 51%, leaning that way. And why not go with the bigger fan base? It makes sense as a business side of things. I'm just tired of seeing it myself. I'd rather personally just read news about what's happening in the game world without someone else's opinion attached to it at all times, especially in the game media world. These people are casuals. My God, I'm like desperate to find someone in the big gaming media that is an actual good gamer that knows what they're talking about. They have a history with the industry and they can actually play a video game without just looking like they're playing with their feet. It's that same dude that was playing Cuphead a couple years ago and couldn't get past the one jump.
Yeah, that was bad.
Back, baby. He's playing Doom Eternal. 20 minutes of him falling in the exact same piece of lava, shooting the floor. It looks like he has no idea how to use 2 analog sticks. And my God, if he's using a mouse and keyboard, even worse. And yet
that's sad.
He's getting paid a salary to give his opinion and reviews and ratings and everything else about games. And when you watch just seconds of him play, let alone the 20 minutes, if you can handle it, it's obvious that he's just not even a gamer. And I'm pretty convinced of it, basically, that that's the majority of people in the gaming media. And I don't load up these sites anymore. I can't stand them outside of watching a new trailer just because their corporate overlords have the in on it. I don't click on them anymore. I go and find other dudes who are informed on YouTube and I watch them. I've always been an informed gamer myself. I read a lot, I watch a lot, but not from the big sites anymore because they're not trying to give me information. They're trying to just generate clicks and essentially at the end of the day, get me triggered. So I leave a comment and, and so forth. So I don't expect anything to change at all. I just expect the narratives that they use to change. That's it.
Well, it's not. First of all, great stuff. Real quick, I have to thank a couple of people. First of all, Infinite is a new channel member. Dude, thank you so much for that. It's very kind of you. We have a few super chats that I have to talk about. And now Face 23BKNY. First of all, dude, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. He drops a $5 super chat. He says this: Zen 2 is in both the PS5 and the Series X and has been confirmed by both Sony and Microsoft. Now, I got to be honest with you. I know for a fact Microsoft said that's going to be there. Tim, did you hear that the Sony PlayStation 4, I thought they were using the Zen 1 architecture.
I believe by their PR they said Zen 2. But,
okay, all right.
I'm pretty sure that there's Zen 2.
Okay, and Wilmy Hood once again completely melts my face off with his outstanding generosity with the incredible $200 super chat.
Damn.
He says the media will still be clickbaiting the industry for as long as people for it. Yeah, no, that's a great point. And dude, thank you so much for your unbelievable generosity. LMNOP drops an outstanding $5 super chat. He says, "Good evening, gamers. I had a loud greeting to all of the zealots out there from Shady. Well, listen, first of all, thank everybody for the super chat. I obviously, all the super chats I have been putting away are going to help me get to E3 once again. And I'm not ashamed to say that, folks, because obviously my goal is to get there and give you the people that tune in for this show live from the show floor coverage like nobody's business. Again, it's just me and my own camera, so I'm going to be my goal is to double what I gave what I put out last year. I had almost 40 pieces of content. I'm looking to double that. I want to have at least 80 pieces of content in 7 days. I'm going to give it the old college effort. I know I'm going to be dead. I'm going to be doing 3 live shows from LA on top of that content to try and bring you guys and gals the best.
I like that last message there, Boom. Shout out to the zealots. As much as it's hard to believe, a zealot is a person too. And go figure, they're also gamers, hardcore gamers. They're just a little lost. But I mean, yeah, shout out to them too, man. They make a big part of this community. So
here's a picture with me and Aaron Greenberg at last year's Microsoft conference, which was amazing. Cybernox, I want to get your opinion on this. Obviously, you yourself, you have seen the media, really trounce the Xbox brand. And obviously, they can't do anything just yet. But because we don't know much about Sony. Like I said, I didn't even know that they confirmed the Zen 2 processor. I thought it was the Zen 1. And I'll say this right now, folks, if it is, in fact, the Zen 2, you're not paying $399. So start start collecting cans now, folks. It's going to be $499, just like the Xbox Series X. And Microsoft's going to have the $300 console, and they're going to try and beat them with both power and price, the same way that Sony did it at this current generation that we're in. But Cybernox, do you feel, someone that is on this show weekly, someone that plays a lot of games, but also reads a lot of articles, do you feel that Microsoft has the potential to get a fair shake in the next generation should they retain the Power Crown?
They should definitely get a fair shake, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Shady hit the nail right on the head. Uh, even now, if you look back to the latest frenzy that just happened with Microsoft, right? They're doing so many pro-consumer things, and yet when you say something negative about Xbox, you're gonna get the clicks. You're gonna get Sony guys in there, you're gonna get Xbox guys in there trying to defend it, trying to see what all the stir is about. Matt Booty literally told us, listen, it's going to take, we don't want to leave anybody behind. We want you to feel like the purchase of your console was worth it, like you made a great purchase. And the title that they go with is, you don't need to buy a Series X because you're not going to expect any next gen games for 1 or 2 years.
And
So
didn't
it's
Jim Ryan just say something very similar? But it was like 3 to 4 years, not 1 to 2, and nothing from the media. Nothing. It's like, oh, it's just par for the course. It's good. It's glad that they're supporting those PS4 guys.
Yeah, and
it's nuts.
And that video, Shady, that you sent to us too. All these developers, they are or most of them, they are developing for both generations, the current one and the next generation. And most of them, if you think about it, like there are 100 million PlayStation 4s out there. Why would developers leave that? Why wouldn't they develop for that?
This isn't like last gen with the Cell processor and what the 360 was using. This is all x86. It's never been easier to scale your game to what works ever. This is easier than it's ever been.
Yep.
There is 100+ million consoles out there. When you include both Xbox and Sony, the games can be scaled up and down, especially when they're the same types of games we're getting. These aren't some next gen at the game core level, needs all that new stuff. They're just gonna be prettier versions of the same type of stuff we get. So they might as well put them all everywhere. Like the days of just putting your game out onto one console and using that one console as the portal to your ecosystem are over. It's over. PC games are coming day and date. Streaming is coming day and date everywhere. Like the industry is changing right before our eyes. This is the biggest change in a generation ever, even though you don't necessarily have to jump in right away. Like it's just a different way of doing things. It's more open, which is a good thing for customers.
Yep, and in today's day and age, with everyone now getting their news now from actual YouTubers, gamers, not these journalists that play a game once here and there and then just put an opinion piece on it. Like it's becoming harder and harder to keep your site or your article relevant, and they have to do literally kind of what Tim Dog alluded to earlier. They get paid, on their clicks. So they'll do, and they know if they say anything negative about the Xbox and something controversial, they're gonna get the clicks because people just gravitate towards that. Like it's insane. So I think it's gonna continue. I think Xbox though is doing, everybody, whoever's an Xbox fan and it's been paying attention to the platform and the ecosystem for the past few years, know that they've been doing the most pro-consumer things out of any other companies. So if they just keep doing what they're doing, hopefully they'll get their fair share. But for right now, for the next few years, I still think it's going to be the same old clickbait titles.
I mean, you could be right. Certainly, definitely going to. I mean, time is going to tell. We're going to see, how quickly the media can turn. I mean, obviously, I've said this on numerous podcasts. Post December 12th. Microsoft, and Tim, you'll agree with this, has literally stolen all the mind share in gaming. There's just no doubt about it. And Sony has been very quiet. Why they're quiet, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and try to speculate that they're in trouble in any way. No, they're Sony. We know they're going to come back. Well, at least we hope they're going to come back with some, with the big reveal. Is it February 5th? Is it February 29th? Is it April? Is it May? Is it June? They skipped E3. What are they doing? Are they psyching us out? No one really knows. Yeah. And everyone said February. Everyone said, well,
they're gonna wait for the Xbox to reveal all their stuff.
I don't think they can, dude. I don't think
they likely they would want to, but I mean, I think they know that they've lost the power crown. Xbox has more first-party studios than ever. Meanwhile, Sony is admittedly saying we're making less first-party games than ever. Like they're desperately trying to cook up a new narrative on how to sell a weaker system with less first-party titles without a Game Pass service.
Yeah.
That's it, I think. And the quieter they are, the better, because once they start letting out details, as soon as Xbox does, it's just, if the sites want to report news, it would be a blatant comparison leaning, I think, towards Xbox. And the only way this negativity, I think, could ever end in the media is if Sony ends up in like a Wii U situation and the next system somehow just completely flops so hard and Xbox actually runs away with it. That'd be the only way, because now you're going to cater to the majority again. But oh man, I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't know, but listen, it's going to be interesting to see what Sony does, and if this event does happen. Again, remember, we heard from the inside sources, right? The people that know the know, and it was February 5th, and apparently that's not happening. We're hearing February 29th. We've even heard, somewhat confirmed that Sony has booked their theater here in New York for an invite only on the 29th at 7 p.m. That's the last rumor I've read. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the chat read the same thing. Yeah. You heard the same thing.
That's a Saturday. That's a Saturday, just so you know. So
yes,
that's the only reason why I kind of think it's not real, but very well could be.
Yeah. I mean, normally they do their stuff during the week. I've never seen them do anything otherwise, but you know what? Listen, only time is going to tell. Gaming Forte, I want to go to you because you obviously, not only do you have an amazing YouTube channel where you're constantly cranking out opinion pieces on your channel, but you're on multiple podcasts. I mean, obviously, you're on this one. You've guested on just about every show that I do. You're on with Luca on Saturdays. You're also you've been guest appearing on Crossfire on Friday evenings. You're like one of the busiest men in podcasting that I know. Do you think that Microsoft could, in fact, get a fair shake if they continue this trend of gamer first, power crown narrative is theirs, price, and they do this two-prong attack where they go after Sony. They go after the Sony fan base in two ways. They try to grab that casual market that powered the PS4 to the 106 plus million, and they go and they cater to the hardcore, which is everyone that's here right now, the 300 people that are here right now. Do you think that they can get a fair shake?
Oh man, a fair shake. The funny thing is they did amazing last generation and still didn't get the fair shake. It was mostly, even knowing games still ran better on the 360 platform, people still touted as talking so much more about what PlayStation was doing versus what Xbox was doing. So it really just comes back to the old conversation is nothing really will change into the actual thing you're trying to talk about does. And right now, media is like the print media is such a dying thing. They have to do something to get clicks. And everybody pretty much said it. The biggest thing is Xbox is still considered a newcomer to the block, even though it's been 20 years since they fired up that first system back in 2001 with the original Xbox. PlayStation's been here 25. Nintendo's been here for, it feels like, an ancient amount of time.
1985, dude.
1985, man. So it's just they're still brand new to the ecosystem. But on top of that, the player base is so fickle now. It's like most people you would think it's more people that just want to play games, but most of them like not the majority, but the people that we talk to all the time, we're kind of deep enthralled into this whole narrative about what consoles do well, caring about the platform more than just the game sometimes. I mean, granted, we care about the games too, but we want to see the platform do well, because when the platform does well, we get better games out of it. And that's kind of what the narrative has always been for most people that play as Xbox. But when it comes to the PlayStation side or comes to media in general, it's like what Sony is doing is they're doing everything better than what anybody else can be doing it. And ultimately, since you have a player base that has 106 million people or just 106 consoles out there, I'll say probably 85 million of those are just individual people, not just doubling up on systems. That's a big player pool to be able to write articles about. And as long as there are people that are willing to go and defend a platform, you know, it's going to always be this way. If I always tell people, when it comes to stuff that if you don't want to see it, don't go click on it. If you don't support it, it won't be there anymore. You know, there's people on YouTube that do the same exact thing, clickbait their titles to death, and after a while, you kind of just get tired of, you know, the narrative that's going there. You get tired of going in there fighting a fight that really doesn't matter, you know, because ultimately it comes down to the games you like to play and the people and experiences you like to hang out with. And it will be the same way. People just don't see it on the bigger scale because they're big media. But I haven't been to IGN or Kotaku or GameSpot. I haven't been to those websites in forever to look at like a review.
Yeah, I don't use any of that stuff
like
anymore.
First look at a game anymore. Like it used to be a time I used to always look at IGN.
It used to be a daily thing, right?
It used to be a daily thing. Like IGN was literally, I had that on my Xbox One. I had the app downloaded because I always used to want to know, all right, what's new going on? You know, what's this, what's that? But now, I mean, I'll tune into just random YouTubers. I'll type in the name of a game and see who's talking about it, and you never know. It could be Diller talking about it. It could be Cole. It could be some brand new person I've never seen make a video before, and I'll watch their video because I feel like when you're looking at the fans talk about video games, you know, for the most part, you're not going to be disappointed in some of the stuff you get from that. Now, you may not agree with some of it, but ultimately, you know, it's coming from a place where they actually probably truly care about it. But when it comes to media, you don't know what they really care about. Some of them could be PlayStation fans. Some of them could be undercover Xbox fans, but they know the clicks aren't for Xbox. So they'll talk about, you know, all the positive stuff that Sony is doing or Nintendo is doing. I found the article when they were talking about the dev came out and said PS4 and Xbox One are going to be what was the word they used? They're going to dominate. It's like you're going to be blown away by the fidelity you're going to get. But I saw articles from people just like that article I saw. Then I saw literally articles based off that article talking about PlayStation is going to dominate. It's going to melt your face. But then they don't talk about the other side of that article where they said, well, Xbox is going to do the same thing. So if you're a person that just frequents those websites and don't watch everything, you would think that it's only one console that's going to be dominating like that because that's the only one they're really reporting on. So it's a slow grind. Overall, it really just comes down to you as an individual and the stuff you like to partake yourself in and listen to.
Take a look at this Forte on the screen. Yeah, PlayStation 5 is beating Xbox Series X in dev kit form right now. Like
okay, so just because Microsoft hasn't come out and explicitly said what's going on with their dev kit like PlayStation has, they're about to get destroyed. Last time I checked, the Xbox, everybody's literally saying that the Xbox is going to be a more powerful system. Then, if I remember correctly, dev kits are literally 2 to 3 times faster in every way.
To give developers unlimited room to work.
To give you unlimited room, and they scale back the console off the dev kits. So if the Xbox One series, if the Xbox new Xbox X is going to be that powerful, you don't think the dev kit is going to be more powerful? But there it is. You know, it's a narrative that's being spun by the media because they know Xbox gets clicks. You say anything negative about Xbox is going to get the clicks. PlayStation people are going to come over and say, see, you guys are up here talking about Game Pass and all this other stuff, but your system isn't even going to be as powerful as the PS5. And then you got Xbox people in there trying to defend it. So it's a vicious circle that never freaking ends. And you know, it's not our responsibility to do it, but it's they can change the narrative, but the only way the narrative is going to change on Xbox's side is if they do everything right.
I will say this: they have to make sure that their messaging and their marketing is going to be on par. And I'm not sure if you guys heard last week's Xbox Factor podcast, and Tim, I think that you might be privy to this information. They just got back the guy that led the charge for the Xbox 360. He left to go work with American Express, I believe it was, and then he went to Netflix, and he just left Netflix, and he came back in December 1st. He started with the back at Microsoft, and he is the lead dog there now. And it makes you wonder whether or not it was because of him they decided to do all of these subtle moves. Like I know the Game Awards, Phil talked about it, that it was someone that would within the team that said, hey, why don't we do this? And at first he wasn't for it, but maybe this new guy coming back, I mean, listen, we've all said this before. The messaging and the marketing has to be spot on. I mean, they have to let people know that they have the power. They have to let people know that they have the games, that they have the first party studios. The launch has to be, I mean, listen, they need in order to gain ground, because they're still behind. I mean, let's call a spade, folks. They're currently losing 2 to 1, 2.5 to 1, give or take.
That's globally, though, right? Like, if I were to say, hey, boom, let's have a contest. We're going to sell a product. You get to sell it in 30 stores. I get to sell mine in 90 stores.
Yeah, well, of course, yes.
That's the issue with these consoles, is the PlayStation is for sale in 3 times the regions. So if you're a console area or a console gamer in one of those other areas and you want to play games on a console, you go to the store, it's a PlayStation on the shelf. That's it. There is no Xbox. So to include all that, it's just so biased, but we never, ever, ever hear that when people are, it's 106 million to 50. Yeah, it's available in 3 times the regions around the world. Yeah, should be higher. It should be higher.
Yeah, but and I agree with you on that. But the problem comes down to Xbox. When they make their announcement that they're releasing their system, they said, we're going to roll it out slow. We're going to put it in 17 territories at launch, and then we're going to roll it out to more territories later on. It kind of just bites them in the butt, because me being a business person, I want to put this thing everywhere, because I already know my competitor is launching in 4 times the areas that I'm launching in. And if you want to be competitive, you have to do that. And
Sony has that advantage because they were a hardware company, TVs and Walkmans.
They will always have that.
That's right.
That's the main reason why I always tell people, like, as much as I love Xbox and I say Xbox is going to do very well next generation, when it is only going to come down to, this was going to come down to Xbox, their best is going to be coming within, like, probably not even beating PlayStation, because I don't think that will ever happen in sales, just because of the sheer amount of, like you said, territories they're in. But 360 generation is pretty much the closest you can see it get. It always comes back to me. Xbox's biggest problem this generation wasn't games. It really truly wasn't the games, because they still sold 50 million plus systems. The problem is they didn't have enough people that bought PlayStations last generation buy Xboxes this generation. There was way more people that double dipped on both sides that did not do it this year or this generation, because Xbox, didn't give them enough reasons to do it. And then you lose the exclusivity of the one game you probably shouldn't have lost to, which was Call of Duty, which was literally the game of the decade, that sold more systems than almost Grand Theft Auto and everything else combined. So when you lose stuff like that, and then on top of that, you just don't have a way of bringing 25 to 30 million plus more consoles over, because they don't find your system of value. That was the problem. So they have a really good opportunity, mostly because of Game Pass. Game Pass is going to be the changer, because they can you literally don't have to have a system to play those things. That's why Microsoft is talking about engagement numbers around services and everything, because they know, just like you said, they know the territory game, they can't win. They're just not, they're big enough to do it, but people in those territories are pretty much already sewn up to the consoles they want. So places like Japan and Asia, that's why you see Phil Spencer over there talking. Yes, he's over there trying to get talent, like build a studio over there. They're getting third-party deals to get these games into services like Game Pass, but they're trying to get Game Pass on as many items in Japan as possible. That's why you're going to see, sooner or later, you're going to see Game Pass launch on a Switch. You're going to see it happen, because guess what? Most of Japan and Asia is mobile. And when you tap into that market, that's when you see Microsoft hit that 2 billion users that they're talking about hitting. It's not about the console anymore. The console, look, if Microsoft could get out of consoles and not get backlash from it, they would. They see a value in it because we see a value in it. But the moment that value disappears and it's really just all about services, then that's all it's going to be about for them, because that's their core competency. And that's what I champion and I like the most about them. But no one get it twisted. Microsoft is in this to win.
Yes, they are.
They're just in it to win a different way than what Sony and Nintendo are trying to do. And sooner or later, Sony and Nintendo are going to have to follow suit, because we're growing up in an age where gamers are used to just playing their games wherever the heck they are. Consoles are going to become a thing of the past, not literally, but they won't be the number one thing you need to do to have to play the games you want to play.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, well, listen, this has been an amazing topic. And real quick, I just have to catch up on some of the super chats. First of all, Valerian drops a $2 super chat, and he says, RDNA 1 in the PlayStation 5 and RDNA 2 in the Series X. Now, so, I mean, obviously, there's some numbers there. Face 23 BKNY says, when it comes to third-party games, yes, they'll be cross-gen, but the PS5 will have first-party exclusive sourced by Jason Schreier.
Huh.
I mean, okay. I mean, thank you for the super chat, dude. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Jason Schreier, but whatever. And let's see. LMNOPO drops an additional $5 super chat, and he says this: maybe U.S. market isn't as important as Europe to Sony. What market should Sony reveal the PS5 for first? US, Japan, or the UK? Yeah, dude, that's a great question, but I don't think that they could release it, statically to those regions. I think it's got to kind of be, a couple of days in between, maybe. I don't think you're going to see like a week or a month, like Japan gets it first and we get it a month later, or vice versa, then Europe is followed. I think they're going to have to do a worldwide launch, maybe, but
Probably.
The Americas are still top dog as well. You got the States, Canada, and Mexico. That's like 500 million people right there. So,
yeah, that's
number one country when it comes to literally everything that we buy.
Yeah.
So
consumer centric over here in the Americas, man.
Very, very. I mean, you can't even buy. You can't say the word sale and buy without saying America.
Well, I mean, obviously, Emmanuel A drops a $3 super chat, and he says, buying PlayStation over Xbox is un-American. Support America. Listen, dude, I don't think it's really that. All the consoles are made overseas, man. That's just the way it is. Thank you for the super chat. Midway Monster drops a $2 super chat, and he says, would Microsoft outsource on a console? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure who's going to actually build the consoles for them, but I'm almost positive, and I think it's safe to say that they're all built, but all the consoles are built overseas and they're shipped here. That's why we were all concerned about the import tariffs that are not going to happen. So I don't necessarily think they are actually built here in the States, to be honest with you. But I want to move on to the next topic. Now, obviously, there has been a lot of talk. Obviously, AMD is doing both, working on both graphic chips for the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. And it was brought to my attention, AMD's Zen 2 is going to be apparently in both of the consoles. And it's going to be a key to the higher frame rates for both the next generation consoles. The question, though, that we're going to talk about is what does Microsoft actually have to do to have this leg up in regards to a graphical lead with the Series X over the PlayStation 5? Now, the Series X frame rates will be 60 hertz, will be above 60 hertz confirmed. And according to Phil Spencer, it's due to AMD's Zen 2 architecture, and we can thank that particular product for that. Now, according to Xbox boss Phil Spencer, the setup from AMD's Jaguar cores to the Xbox One's to Zen 2 cores in the Xbox Series X allows its next generation console to deliver and have consistent frame rates and VRR, variable refresh rates, and more to improve the feel of the game. Now, here are some of Phil's recent quotes, and I'll go right to you, Tim Dog, as soon as I'm done reading them. This is what Phil had to say. we've never really tried to limit what developers are trying to do on our platform. And he said this in an interview to Stever, I believe it's Stever, I believe it's pronounced. Whether it's 60 frames per second on the Xbox 360 or people doing 4K 60 now on the Xbox One X, we want to give our developers the tools to go and try things that they want to go and try on any of the hardware platforms, and capability can be there for them to go and try these things. I think we've reached a point with the Xbox One X in this generation where games look amazing, and there's always work that we can do to look more amazing. But I want games to feel as amazing as they look. I don't have that in today's generation, mainly because the CPU is underpowered relative to the GPU that's in the box in order to reach a feel and frame rate and kind of consistency or variable refresh rate on other things that we want. So, Tim, when you hear him say this, obviously, you said it in your opening when we, on one of the other topics, you feel, and I would agree with you 1,000%, that it's almost a given that Microsoft cannot, in any way, shape, or form, relinquish the power crown. And again, I don't know, because you said it yourself before that there's all these different, specs coming from these so-called insiders that Sony's machine is now on par with the with the Xbox Series X, and no one knows for sure because obviously we know some of the specs from Microsoft's side of the coin, but we don't really know anything with the PlayStation 5. What are your thoughts on what Phil had to say here?
Well, I think first off, as far as just to reiterate, I think two people do know. I do think Sony and Microsoft know what each other has.
Oh, I believe so. Yeah, I'd agree with you there.
Yeah, and I do think that the reason why I think Microsoft is a little confident is because of that. So with that being said, I think this generation, unlike last generation, you're going to have a flagship CPU that's made in, I believe, either in 2020 or 2019. That's pretty cutting edge, where they're both systems most likely will be using Zen 2. Now, last generation, you had, I believe that CPU was like a year or two older, and it wasn't special by any means. It was just like an okay addition. So the thing that they're going with this generation, aside from the GPU stuff and everything else, is they want 60 frames per second pretty much on almost all of their titles. I think that's going to be a standard this generation, and I think it's a very good standard. And when he talks about the feel of the game, you hear gamers talk about that many times, and it's always attached to 60 frames per second. Now, recently, Thomas Moeller had asked if you want 120 frames per second on Ori.
Yes.
And I believe that you're also going to get 120 frames on certain games. It might be 1080p, 120, or 1440p. Whatever it is, you're going to get different variations in frame rates. Now that's an age-old question. Do frame rates, do they affect your experience? I think most gamers would say yes.
What do you like to play in? What for you as a gamer? What do you prefer? Would you rather, 4K visuals at 1880p or 1440p, or would you rather it be running at a lower frame rate as opposed?
Right. Now this is what I was just going to say. Now there are some gamers, and it's usually young gamers, that would say frames all day. I'll take it. For me, as an older gamer,
we like the graphics.
I do like the graphics more, and I do think I do believe this is my personal opinion. Older people, older gamers, it's less discernible, the frames, than it is when you're a little fresher, when you're a little younger. That's just a personal opinion that's never been factually put into play. It could be just bullshit, to be honest. I don't know. But that's the way I feel. I feel like when I talk to younger gamers, or, they're like all day. They're like frames all day. And, Fonz, who's around my age, he's one of those guys that say, no, it's frames all day. I see it. Personally, I see it in some games. I see it very vividly. Other games, not so much. Some people say that they can tell 60 frames off the bat. Like they can look and see 60 frames.
Oh yeah, you could definitely tell.
See, I can't do that. Now I'm just now. You guys say that you can. I can't do that. I'm going to be honest. I don't know.
The backgrounds are the big one. You start ripping that camera around. 30 frames is a blur bomb, just so blurry. Whereas 60, it holds those images together so much better, less artifacting when you're spinning your camera around. That's the big standout for me on the two.
Right. See that's something that I never really paid attention to. That's something that could tip it off for me. But until my eye gets trained more, I would be more in the graphics camp to push the graphics camp. I would not freak out. Now I think that we're going to have some freakouts this generation when we hear that it's 30 frames per second on these next generation machines. But that doesn't bother me. That's not going to bother me. But it's going to bother a lot of people. I think you put take it to the bank that 60 frames per second, as I was told at E3 by someone within Microsoft, all day next generation. So I do think that you're going to get 60 frames, and that's going to be the standard. But I do think you might get a developer that says, screw it, let's see what we can get with 30 frames with these consoles and push out the most visceral type game that you can at the top resolution.
I mean, listen, both consoles are going to be beasts. Now, whether or not, the numbers equate to, at the end of the day, whoever has the bigger number and can work and really push their first party games on that number, people are going to be like, that's what people are going to go with. Obviously, right now, we don't know what Sony is going to do. We've heard 9 teraflops. There are people that are saying it's 12 now. I don't know. I mean,
it was always 10. Just so you know.
Okay.
I've been following this. It was like 10. That was the latest thing because Glee Gamer said it was over 10, and some journalist Jason, I think he mentioned, we both don't really like, but he said that it's over 10. It was that until Xbox came out with the 12, or Jez broke the article and Dealer broke the video.
Yes.
When that came out, that whole forum, both of those forums, went absolutely crazy. And ever since then, you also have the GitHub leaks that was, pointing at 9.2.
Yes, 9.2. Yes.
Right. Ever since then, you've had an insider every week. A different insider, a Tommy Fishers of the world, or the Aureus Blacks, and now the latest guy, BG. Listen, to me, as an Xbox fan, telling to other Xbox fans, if they lost the Power Crown, I would be highly, highly surprised. I really believe that since 2017, late 2017, 18, that they went with the idea of let's go with a flanking strategy. We're going to have power on one end. People are going to be willing to pay a little bit more money. And then we're going to have, it's going to offer 60 frames per second, maybe not at the top resolution, but it's going to be an entry point for gamers at an entry level price. And I think that with that in mind, with that mindset, Lockhart, Anaconda, they have always went out to do that. Now, there was a point where, as people said, well, Lockhart was basically, it was never taken off the table. What happened with that is that people knew about it. Microsoft didn't want to answer questions about it. They also didn't want to talk about Xbox One X. So they said, let's tell the necessary people that we're undecided about it. And I think that they did put it on the back burner for a little, but they always kind of still went into production with it, and then I believe like 3 months ago, I believe it was really greenlit. Like as far as now, and these things might even be in production as far as it's being put on a conveyor belt right now in layman terms, obviously, but the hardware is now being pushed. You're gonna get, I think it's pretty safe to say you're gonna get an Anaconda and you're gonna get a Lockhart. When the Lockhart comes out, that might be a question, might be a little bit later, but I think that they're looking for both to come out at the same time and a global launch, and that's the way that they went about this generation. And as somebody said quite eloquently, it's not about consoles anymore with them, and that's not a bad thing. They just know that it's one way of people to get gamers into their ecosystem. But when you look at North Korea and xCloud, they are 2-to-1 usage than the rest of everyone else.
Yes, yes, that is correct.
How many consoles are in North Korea? Oh, I mean Korea, not North Korea. But how many consoles are in Korea? Maybe 50,000.
Yeah, it's a giant mobile market. The consoles have no space whatsoever.
So there you go. So
I mean, there's the reason why xCloud was launched in that region. One of the major reasons that they're beta testing it there. I mean, it's for obvious reasons. They want to win there.
Right. So they have a multi-task goal-oriented thing that they're going through. It's just different than Sony's, and I think people get pissed or they get upset because they want Microsoft to take the same exact tact as Sony and say it's all about consoles. Now, believe me, now it's to the point where, if anything, Sony's now looking at Microsoft and saying, and especially with the Layden and a lot of the turmoil that you saw, I do think that pointed out Sony's like, you know what? We maybe should be doing what they're doing on this, especially with the thing with xCloud and certain things and the gaming service, subscription service, being how successful Xbox Game Pass is and it's going to get, especially with the numbers that they're pushing. I think Sony's going to say, well, we can have the same thing. Why not do it? And you know what? If I was in the position, I'd say the same thing. So I think people wanted the traditional route, or most people, or a lot of the loud people, would you say, wanted them to be because console, driven, and that's the only thing that they want. They don't want to think about anything else. And I think Shady's always made the point about how, he's talked on this subject and exclusive staying here and there. But the whole thing is changing. And I think that this is just more, more to the point. And we all can't get crazy about it. Bottom line is that Microsoft, in addition to all these things, wants power. And I do think that they're going to get power. So I think that the fans of Xbox, and I think that a lot of people want the power, I think you're going to get it. I'd be very surprised if they don't get it.
No, I would agree. Real quick, before I get to you, Shady, I have to thank Emmanuel A. drops an additional $2 super chat. Thank you, dude. He says, to be honest, I care more about Game Pass than the Power Crown. And you know what? Some people may agree with you on that, dude. But Game Pass has saved me hundreds every year, hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And I've played at least in 2019 30 games that I would have passed on.
Oh yeah, I agree with that statement. If it was roles reversed and it was Sony that was coming out with the guaranteed, let's say, more powerful, they were the 12 teraflop rumor and Xbox was coming in weak, I'd go Xbox again because Game Pass is saving me hundreds and hundreds of dollars per year that I then go and buy more games with. I mean, I knew that Xbox was less powerful this gen and didn't stop me. It's just the brand I enjoy, the controller I enjoy, the online I enjoy, the deals I enjoy, rewards programs.
Your achievements you enjoy.
Yeah, that's right. It goes on and on and on and on. It's not just about first party titles and Power Crown. Like, those are nice to have, of course, but I mean, third party is like 95+% of the game industry, and Power is nice. But if we all cared about it truly that much,
we'd all on PCs.
We'd all be hardcore PC guys. Yep. I'm a console gamer, and Power, it is important, but it only goes so far. It's everything else combined that is my platform of choice.
You know what? I'm going to come to you real quick, but I have to thank LMNOP drops another $5 super chat. Dude, thank you so much for your generosity and, of course, your unbelievable comments. He says, I've heard a lot of gamers still play 360, and that's true. There are a lot of gamers that still play the PlayStation 3. Why wouldn't Microsoft consider making a portable that's as powerful as a 360 and able to play xCloud for Asia? Listen, LMNOP, I know you were in the chat. If you think I had the most outrageous theory, and of course, I'm probably 1,000% wrong, but I said that the Xbox Lockhart is going to be a hybrid portable console to take advantage of xCloud. I know I'm wrong, but I threw it out there just in case I do get it right, so I could be the one to say, yes, I effing said it first. But let me, Shady, you mentioned the Xbox Game Pass, and before I actually bring that into this particular part of the question, the last parts that Phil Spencer talked about really should have the community, the Xbox community, smiling from ear to ear. And obviously, we know that the Xbox Series X is going to be powered by the AMD's Zen 2 CPU architecture, and obviously that particular chip is found within the best CPUs on PC in gaming today. There's just no doubt about it. Zen represents a colossal improvement on the terrible Jaguar APU fitted with the current generation Xbox console, and obviously this upgrade is going to be a big deal. And now this is where we get into the weeds here. Tim and I both, privately talking and publicly talking on this show, we believe there is absolutely zero way Microsoft gives up the power crown. The reason why I'm bold enough to say that,
never zero.
No, absolutely, no.
I'm saying 2%.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm going to speak for myself. I don't think they're going to do it, and I'm going to tell you why. Because this is a different Microsoft. See, this is not the same Microsoft from 2013. Hell, this is not even the same Microsoft pre-E3 2018. This is a different Phil Spencer. And I think that Phil knows, and Tim alluded to it. I think that if you, as a gamer who listens to these shows, think that Microsoft doesn't know what Sony's doing and Sony doesn't know what Microsoft's doing, you're crazy. You're crazy, because they both do. They both know what they're doing. Maybe not down to the color of the wire they're going to use on the inside, but they have an idea of what they're doing. And Microsoft, Phil Spencer, would have not been so bold as to put the Xbox Series X out there for everyone to see during the Game Awards, unless he felt that they knew that they had the power and they were not going to give it up. Now, Shady, for you personally, obviously, you just said something. If you were concerned with only power, you would own a maxed out $3,000 PC rig, and you wouldn't even bother with either the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X. But when you factor in Game Pass, when you factor in Project xCloud, when you factor in everything that Microsoft is doing in regards to their 15 plus studios with the potential to add more this year, power is basically the tip of the iceberg. In your opinion, though, do you think that they tip their hat and give Sony back that power, or do you agree with people on this panel and in this chat that there's no way they do that?
I don't think they're going to do it either. They've been speaking as much for a couple of years now, and they are a monstrously huge company that can afford to not need to take a profit on a console sale. That was the way it used to be. You took a little bit of a loss on your console sale to get it into the home, get that ecosystem into everyone's living room so they can start buying games on it. And then all of a sudden, this current generation, everyone wanted money right out the gate. Everyone was making 30, 40, 50 bucks on the console at launch. So Microsoft can be like, we don't need that money. They've come out and said, we don't, quote unquote, care about console sales. It's not the only way into our ecosystem anymore. So they don't need to profit off of just those devices. They can take a cut there and up the power. They can just afford to take a loss, really, if they wanted to. Every console that's in your house, you lose 40 bucks. And within 2 games or a controller purchase, you're already back at even again. They can afford that more so than Sony. Not that Sony can't afford a loss for a bit as well, but not as easily as Microsoft could stomach it. they've just been speaking about power. Like, if you're just a console gamer and it doesn't matter about PC at all, who gives a damn? That's generally me. Power is important, of course, but it's not the most important. But until the Xbox One X came out this generation, it did irk me when games would come out and I would look at comparison videos and know that it was playing better on a console that is sitting in my house as well. But I don't like to play games on it so much. I don't play multi-platform games ever on the PlayStation, ever. So when Call of Duties ran better, or Battlefields or Assassin's, anything, right? It irked me, but not enough to the point where I'm like, well, to hell with the ecosystem that I do enjoy playing in. I still was here. So, I mean, I don't think they're going to give it away. If they did, the media would just skewer them. They wouldn't never let it go again.
Yep.
So I think just on that aspect, it's in their best interest to keep it. But the casuals make up like 80+% of the audience of console gaming. By casual, I just mean someone who's buying like a game or two a year. They generally have a friend that talked them into it. It's the cool thing to do these days, is have a gaming console. It's easy to watch your Netflix and stuff on, but they're the most, by far the most, and they don't give a shit about power. They just want to get the console, not break the bank in the process, play a few games with their friends every now and then, and watch all the apps available. So I don't think it's going to matter to most people, but front-facing media especially, they got to keep that crown, especially because they've been talking the big game for a couple of years now. So they got to do it, I almost think.
Yeah, no, I agree. Gaming Forte, I want to go to you. Obviously, the reason why I think your opinion is could validate this, I hate saying the word argument, right? We're having a discussion, folks. And let me just say this right now, okay? I want this to be completely known, because there are a lot of new people here. Which is amazing. First of all, we're closing in on 350. Tim, I got to ask a favor. If we cross 350 people watching live, you're going to have to do what you do on RDX, at least just once, blow our eardrums out and get everybody excited. So folks, tell your friends, tell your grandmas, tell your grandpas, get in here so we can hit 350, so we can hear Tim yell. But I want to go back to Gaming Forte. And the reason why I want to go back to you, and why I think that I want you to validate this discussion that we're having, is because obviously you are in the trenches. You get to see the people coming off the street that have no idea, and what a teraflop is, or even what the newest game is. You see people blindly buying systems because the cool system right now is the PlayStation brand. That's the reality. 85% of their 106 million, which equates to 86 million, 87 million, give or take, are casual buys. And even in those casual buys, for myself, I was good for four PlayStation 4s. I bought 2 Pros and 2 of the vanillas. I got the launch day vanilla. I bought the Destiny white one vanilla. Then I got the Pro when that came out. Then my wife surprised me with the God of War Pro, which I currently have and I'm never getting rid of. My brother was good for 5. So there are a lot of people that double, triple, quadruple dipped into this 106 million. But for you, and this is again, it's part of the conversation we're having. But if Microsoft somehow or another does retain the power crown like we all think, and then does what Tim was saying, do the backyard football move where they drop a $300 console, it's going to be discless, sure. There's rumors of a 3-month card for Xbox Game Pass being put in there. That's what we're reading on the 4chan forums, right? They could logistically really sandwich Sony in a bad way. What are your thoughts on that?
Let's see. So the whole discless system, just the fact that they're doing the cheaper SKU and putting it in, they're going to try to hit them from both sides, is probably the best thing they can do. It really just comes down to timing and making sure that the messaging is right when it comes to the systems. I think overall, they're going to be fine no matter what. I think all these systems are going to be fine no matter what. Like I said, I just feel like Microsoft needs to have a narrative that is completely opposite of what they had before, because that narrative they had back in 2013 didn't jive with nobody. Nobody really wanted anything they were selling, and it was the overconfidence of how well they did with the 360, how well Connect sold, being an add-on that sold over 10 million in the 360. I mean, you saw literally everything that could go wrong for Microsoft in the arrogance department went wrong. And you're starting to see a little bit of those things with Sony now, mostly just because of the they don't really want to commit to anything right now, especially with so much of their not their future, but just the leadership changes and everything. It's really hard to dictate and validate where exactly the company wants to go. Microsoft just wants to, I mean, right now I think Microsoft just wants to exist in an ecosystem that is best for them. And for them, talking about these services, giving everybody the ecosystem around Game Pass and getting xCloud up and running. Those are basically the things that Microsoft wants to work on, and they want to be 100% viable for them. So I think they're going to be perfectly fine. The system, is it really going to make a huge difference? Like I said, it comes down to the whole messaging and territories. I believe that Microsoft needs to, really push the envelope on what they want to do when it comes to talking about how their system is going to be interactive with everybody that jumps into it, because people want to play their games as many places as they can. How's that narrative going to spin going forward? They need to knock everybody's socks off at E3 because Sony won't be there. So how is that even going to look? So it's kind of hard to say because we don't know exactly what Sony's going to do because they've been really quiet. And we do know that there is, they got a booking for the event, some type of event at their headquarters in New York. Don't know what that's going to be. More than likely, I'll put money on it being their reveal of their system.
I'd like to see what it looks like.
Well, we haven't heard anything about that system since technically April last year when they announced everything that was going into the SSDs. That's pretty much the only thing we really truly know about the PlayStation at this point, whereas with the Xbox we know about the archetype, we know pretty much what they're looking to do in the ecosystem of how all the games are going to be backwards compatibility and everything. We don't even know. I mean, we hear rumors and whispers of the PlayStation, but is PlayStation 4 games going to be truly backwards compatible? They really haven't came out and said anything. I think that's another huge thing that has to fall, because that's going to allow a lot of gamers to either leave their systems behind and go to another platform or stick it out with the ones they want. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be told about these systems, but Microsoft doesn't really need to worry. It's just really comes down to just keep talking about the things you need to talk about.
No, that's that. I mean, listen, great points. Real quick, I have a question for you from Elemental PO, who drops an additional $5 super chat. Dude, that's crazy. Thank you so much for the generosity. He says, at Gaming Forte, Xbox will start to sell out the inventory soon. How cheap could the X get a year from now after the Series X releases?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a great question, dude.
X's went for $249 this holiday. $249. That's the lowest they went. Regular Xboxes
$249. That's sick, man.
Yeah, regular Xboxes were going for $149. Like Xbox One S's were going for $149 with the bundles. Wow. Now they haven't 100%. See, this is the thing. You got to always take all this stuff with a grain of salt. They haven't 100% confirmed the Lockhart. They basically haven't.
Right. Well, they have not. We've heard. I mean, dealers even heard.
Right. We keep hearing about it. So if the Lockhart is a thing, and that is going to be something that they're going to depend on as the entry point to their new system, just to clear out the inventory of X's, I can see $150 for an X.
Ooh. Wow.
200. I'll say this: 200 for an X when the new systems come out, because you can't have a disparity in price versus the performance. Because if the Lockhart is going to be anything that we think it's going to be, that system's going to probably come in at $299. Well, you can't have a regular Xbox One X coming out at $250, $50 cheaper. It's going to probably have to come in $100 cheaper. So I'll say 200 at the outset. If they still have any available by that next holiday, $100.
Yeah, I could see them stopping. I mean, I don't know if
it's going to make it. I think they'll hold on to.
They might have already stopped producing it.
Yeah,
they send quite a few of those things still, but it's still part way through. You know what? This will be a better answer going into probably like I want to say July and August, because if they ramp up and we start getting a heck of a lot more of those consoles put into the stores, that lets you know they're in a process of trying to liquidate their inventory on that type of stuff. But as of right now, the system is still viable because there is no other system out that they're talking about right now. So we'll see around August, maybe October, depending on what the date of the new system is going to be.
Well, just to add on to this, you'll probably see some type of we'll get some type of info on this. I believe that it's possible that if Lockhart and Anaconda, if they both launch at launch, or if Lockhart's a little bit behind, that once those systems are, I think they're going to be at launch. Obviously, if it all comes through. But I do believe that they're not going to have, from what I heard, they're not going to have 6 SKUs to choose from. So
no, it's going to be the S and the X,
or they might discontinue the S and the X and have just the Lockhart and the Series X available. And then obviously they're going to support the S and the X for as long as
they're not going to sell it, right?
They're not going to sell it. So, yeah, you might get some unbelievable deals, but I do think that they're going to stop production of those consoles. I don't think they're going to be producing 5 consoles, to be honest.
It would be ridiculous. And I don't know this for sure. I'm just a podcaster, folks, so I can't say. I am going to say though this. I don't necessarily know how longer into 2020 they're going to keep producing. I'll take a stab at it, and I don't mind being wrong. I would say that within the next 60 days, they're not going to be producing any more Xbox One X's or S's because why would you? I mean, we're I don't know. E3's right around the corner. I mean, there are millions of consoles available, and there's not going to be a run on them. You know what I'm saying? It's.
I'll tell you what a run's going to be at. And this is what people probably are going to really think about. They probably might stop production on the newer versions of those systems, but there is going to be hundreds, and I mean hundreds of thousands of people trading in Xbox One X's towards this new system.
Oh, heck yeah, absolutely.
If you talk about buying one used, you're going to probably find it for like $150, $200 at most when these new systems drop. I'm one of those people that truly believe that the Xbox One X still has a lot to give to people because it is being handicapped by older hardware. They've developed these games with that older hardware in mind. And yes, they are still doing that when it comes to the new Xbox Series X, but the goalpost is getting moved further and further away from that system where they're going to start really targeting that system and just going down. I mean, I feel sorry for the people that have original Xboxes. Your games probably aren't going to run very well, but ultimately, if you are a person that has one of those systems, you more than likely would be able to trade in that system and get an X for less than $200 if you buy a used one.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's still a deal.
Oh yeah.
Well, listen, again, this has been a great topic. A lot of people had great opinions. The chat was fantastic. You guys and gals were going back and forth, and everyone's pretty much respectful, which I definitely appreciate. And again, even though we don't agree, everyone's allowed their opinion. Even though if it's not even if you don't agree with it, that's okay. That's what you don't want everybody to be just like robots and agree on everything. Everyone has to have their own opinion. But I want to move on to a topic that's about Sony. And it's interesting because Tim, you had made mention of this going maybe about an hour ago. Sony is going in a different direction, and I saw some people saying that they were hoping that Sony's would come out with a tower as well. I got a prototype picture that someone put up on Twitter that I'm going to bring. I hope the PlayStation 5 looks like this because I like this box look. I like this PC. Even though I'm not a PC guy, I like this look. I'm not sure who actually designed this, but this is a slick-looking PlayStation 5. Again, it's a prototype. Someone did it. Whoever rendered this is really good at rendering because it looks legit. But thanks to an article on NintendoLife.com, there was a survey that went out that was shared on Reddit. And though what it's asking has the internet on complete fire, and of course, there have been some Sony extremists that don't believe this is going to happen, and I'm telling you that in fact it is. Now, I don't necessarily know if you're going to be able to play a PlayStation 4 game on the current Nintendo Switch. It's just not going to happen, folks. I don't think you're getting God of War graphics on the Switch. And even though some of their games do look amazing, I don't know if it could run it even in the vanilla format that it is. But since the change at Sony going back in the middle of 2019, there has been a big shakeup. And obviously, Jim Ryan, who is now the head of Sony, who was the head of the European division, I think has a different way that he wants to conduct business. And the way he's going to want to conduct business is like what we've been seeing. I know that our good old friend Randall Thor 2 weeks ago went on an epic rant on the Xbox 2 podcast about how, and a video that he did about how Horizon Zero Dawn is coming to PC. And listen, you know what? I know there's a lot of people that don't like that game. I have been I have been a defender of that game since the beginning. I love it. Alo is one of my favorite characters for Sony, one of the new ones anyway. I love everything about Horizon Zero Dawn. I was hoping that Horizon Zero Dawn would be a PlayStation 5 launch title. I don't think that's going to happen, but we should hear something soon from Guerrilla Games. But with the big shakeup that they have had at Sony, they had an old way of thinking. That old way of thinking is that console sales are the end all of what matters in gaming. And that's not, in fact, the case anymore. And Microsoft themselves have proven that in this generation, even though they got trounced 2-1, right? 106 million consoles to what? 32 plus what my grandmother bought, right? They only sold 32 consoles, right, Tim? I mean, listen. The bottom line is that Xbox Game Pass, that's a service-based monstrosity that's making money hand over fist. And if you don't think Jim Ryan wants a piece of that, or at least I'm hoping that he does, because I've been, again, a big proponent that I want to see both Nintendo and Sony do this service-based thing. Even if Nintendo says, listen, we have to charge you because our first-party games retain so much value even after they sell, our monthly service is going to be, our yearly service or the monthly service is going to be $30 a month or, whatever per year. I'll gladly pay that because I support 3 consoles. So it's cost effective for me personally that if I didn't have to go out and buy Microsoft, Sony's, and Nintendo's first party games and simply only buy third party games, I would never have to choose. I wouldn't miss out on anything. But it's funny how things change so quickly in gaming, Tim. And I want to go to you on this. Now, obviously, we've heard Jim Ryan say that first party games are not going there day and date. And I don't know how long that's going to last. I think he's going to probably try and hold out because there are a lot of people that buy their first-party games because their first-party games are fantastic. Though We're starting to see, though, where, were you yourself, were you surprised by the survey that went on? Again, it's just a survey. There's nothing locked in stone, but it is a survey that, and when a company puts out a survey, that means that they're thinking about offering their games on other platforms. Are you surprised by this new tactic by the new Sony led by Jim Ryan?
No, I think that Jim Ryan was pushing this type of stuff when Layden was in charge. I think Layden was more of somebody who,
he's a traditionalist for sure.
Yeah, a traditionalist. I think that he kind of wanted to keep everything locked up. I think Ryan is now full-fledged in the idea of how can we get more money, how can we get more players, how can we expand what we're doing, even though we have 106 million on PlayStation 5. Now, I just think that this is the way the future is going to go. I don't think it's going to be a big deal when it all happens. One, it does not take away your experience on the home console. It's just
Agreed.
giving you another way. Now, this is not streaming from your the Switch. It's more or less remote play. You have to own
Yes, that is
PlayStation
correct.
4 or PlayStation 5. But they're going in that direction, and honestly, I don't think that I think the Sony fans who are going crazy, they just need to sit back, relax, know what year you're in, and
But aren't
realize
options good, Tim?
these options are good. They're just giving you more ways to play your own content. That you have to stop. They're looking at it as if they're shareholders or that they're within the company. I think Sony gamers in general, the ones that have the problem with this, have to look at this in a way that can benefit themselves. Where this is content that you own.
Yep.
Why is it bad for you to take something that you own and be able to play it on another device and to keep all your stats and everything that you have and be that exclusive to yourself? The exclusivity that you talk about is really to yourself. You're giving yourself now more ways to play games. Now, if you don't care about it and you don't want to use it, okay, don't use it. But you're not everyone. There's out of 10 people, there might be 2-3 people that like this, or there might be a guy that has a job that's in a watchtower and he has downtime where he can play video games all the time. You cannot just say you shouldn't be able to take things away from other people that might want to use it. And again, I think that you got to get away from the idea that if you don't offer this stuff, that everyone's just going to buy a console. And that is not where the trend is going. The trend is going, take your games wherever you want, play it on the devices that keep improving. In the next 6 years, let's just do 3 years from now. You imagine the type of iPhone that you're going to have. That iPhone 15.
Goodness.
It's going to be amazing. Now, just be able to say that you can play games off of the Sony cloud. You can buy a game. You're at that watchtower. You're that watchtower guy. The game opens up at 12 a.m. It's Resistance 4 made by Insomniac. Okay, new PlayStation 5 exclusive. But you have 12 more hours to work. But you want to play the game, and you're on downtime right now. You could literally buy that game, play it off of a server, and play it to your phone, to your iPhone 15.
You're on to something there, Tim.
So it's just technology, the way everything is going and where everything is, I think they just should be just more open to it. So does it surprise me? In short, no, it does not surprise me. Do I think you're going to see more of this stuff from Sony? Yes, I do. I just think that they're going to do things a little bit differently than Microsoft. They might stagger their games to PC. They might stagger their games to PSN now. But in 5, 6, 7 years, they might just have that same model Microsoft has. And guess what? They'll be doing great with it too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. First of all, we have to welcome our special guest. He wasn't sure if he was going to make it, but Kid Smooth, Mr. Xbox himself. Welcome to the show, dude.
What's up, Boom? What's up, Tim Dog? How you guys doing?
Well, real quick, cover your ears, Tim. We're at 360.
Yeah, man. I'm sorry. Oh, that's what's up.
Well, listen, that is what it's all about. Thank you for that. Definitely yell, and hopefully I didn't hurt your voice for tomorrow's RDX, but he's going to be breaking 1200 easily. Kid Smooth, you happen to come in right at the nick of time, in my opinion, because we just started to talk about the survey that went out to PlayStation customers asking if they would like remote play on the Nintendo Switch. Now, you yourself, I don't know if you did a video or you even talked about this yet, but I know you have been on the interwebs, and some of the things that I have read have been shocking to me. And these are Sony fans. What is your opinion on this? Is this the future for Sony? Is this Jim Ryan's PlayStation?
Yeah, it's looking like it. It looked like Jim Ryan has been sitting in the cut watching how, the console that has no games has been generating billions and billions of dollars. And with the amount of work that they've been doing and the money difference isn't too far off. You got to think, if I'm Jim Ryan, you're like, all right, this is how Xbox has managed to, be profitable during this generation. We've, in terms of software, been superior. We could actually be doing much more with the content that we have. So let's reevaluate how we're doing things. That's how I see it, of how they're looking at it. Like I said, when they first announced Jim Ryan's, or around the time of Jim Ryan's hire or promotion, there's been a lot of shakeup at the corporate level. You know, a lot of movement. So
absolutely.
So, but no, I just wanted to comment there. So it's just more so of like I'm not surprised, and because what we're seeing is like, I understand why some would be surprised because of all the people on on Twitter and YouTube saying all the things PlayStation won't do. Why would they copy the last place system? But money talks.
No, it absolutely does. And at the end of the day, I mean, listen, a lot of people, and I think you might have talked about this on one of the shows you were on, about how a lot of the Sony faithful got really upset when that story broke about how they're looking for someone who knows the inner workings of PC for, of course, The Last of Us 2. Now, there's been a couple of detractors that people within the industry, the so-called insiders, say, well, no, it's not for The Last of Us 2, boom. It's for the multiplayer that they're currently working on. Listen, I don't believe that effing for a second. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's going to be because let's call a spade a spade. They're going to sell. I'll put it to this way. Let me just break this down in layman's terms. The Last of Us 2 is going to come out for the PlayStation 4. It's probably going to come out for, there's going to be a PlayStation 5 box that says Enhanced Edition or something, because Sony's good like that. Like they know how to get the money from the people. But let's just say for shits and giggles, that when The Last of Us comes out to the end of the year, they sell 7 million copies. Now, I'm not going high. I'm not going low. I think 7 is to be fair. 7 million copies of what potentially could be Game of the Year 2020 for Sony. There's no even doubt about it. But that's only on the PlayStation 4. And we don't know if this is going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. But what if that was available on Steam? What if that was available for you as a gamer, Mr. PC Master Race? And I don't see him in the chat. Maybe I missed him. Our good friend Enrique, part of the PC Master Race, would probably buy it for the PC. You don't think that they could sell double the amount on PC? You don't think they could, instead of selling 7 million in 2020, they could sell 14 million? 18 million, 20 million, maybe, because on PC, the Master Race, which has millions upon millions of people, are going to want to play it there because they're going to be able to max out 120 frames per second. They get all the bells and whistles you could possibly imagine. So, of course, if you are Jim Ryan and you're seeing they really did a lot of house cleaning, like Kid was saying, I would want that money. That's money that you're literally leaving on the table. Kid, would you agree with that?
Yeah, one can look at it that way. It's it's untapped potential that they could be taking advantage of. PlayStation's has been working kind of on the old school model for so long.
Yes.
So I know they're doing a lot of like tests. They're testing this with games like those Quantic Dream games and Horizon Zero Dawn, supposed to be the first official outside of Death Stranding, but to use
a Decima engine, I think, yes,
to head there. So I think depending on how that goes, and how PlayStation Now continues to evolve on like other platforms, will determine how they move. But because Sony and PlayStation is still in in the business of selling as many consoles as possible.
Well, Jim Ryan said it himself, Kid. He said his goal was to get PlayStation 5s in the hands of everyone as fast as they could.
Yeah. And I mean, the only way you really, do that is like when you launch the PlayStation 5 as cheap as you can possibly get it. And you kind of have to force people over there, and you also have to kind of like stop shipping PlayStation 4s.
Yeah. I just to add to that real quick, I think I've mentioned this on the show before as well. I think the biggest challenge for PlayStation is it's going to be transitioning the 100+ million PS4 owners to a PS5. There's people, obviously this year is going to be low on sales, hardware sales, but they're good luck, especially with Sony, the way they're so good in pushing that hardware. Look at the graphical fidelity of all their games, their first party games right now. There are people who probably have PlayStations 4 right now who are thinking that they're all set for the next,
5
2 to 3
years.
years. Yeah, sure. How X amount of years. So I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges. And since Jim Ryan got in there, he's seeing, hey, we're leaving a lot of money on the table here. And something you guys mentioned, whenever a game comes out, it comes out at $60, right?
Right.
You're going to get the most profit, let's say, from that game at $60. So why not put it out everywhere so you can get the most amount of money that you can? You're already going to have the players who are going to wait for a sale regardless, right? You're going to wait those, but you're going to wait for those who are going to wait for a deep sale, and then there's those who are never going to get it anyway. So why not try to get the most bang for your buck at the beginning, putting your game out everywhere? It just makes the most sense. But
and that's a great point. Shady, I want to go to you because, and before I do, I have to thank Emmanuel A with the $2 super chat. And he says, shout out to King Smooth. So I'm going to give a thank you for that, dude. Appreciate the generosity. And of course, shouting out
to you.
Elemental P drops a $2 super chat. Thank you again, dude. He says, why remote play and not PS Now on Switch? Man, could the Switch handle PS Now? I don't know, man. I mean, sure, the older games, I don't know. Like I said it earlier. I don't know. I mean, look, Alien Isolation, I know they talked about it on the Iron Lords this Sunday, which if you missed that show, you got to get over there and check out my brothers over there. They had Hogue Law on, and it was the Nintendo Earth Defense Force against King. It was a laugh riot. If you missed that, go over there and check that out. But Shady, I want to go to you real quick. The reason why I want to go to you is because you had said something on the last show that, and what you said was that you're not buying a PlayStation 5 because you don't want to be supporting all of these consoles. And obviously, if you try to support all three consoles, it becomes expensive. And if you only have so much money, there's only so much money that goes around, right?
Oh yeah, but it's not that. It's not that. Like I've had multiple consoles since the 80s.
But what
the reality is, with today's technology, I don't think it's necessary anymore. I mean, I can play those games, streaming them or play them on PC.
But actually, my point was going to be: would you change your mind if they somehow converted PS Now into what Game Pass is today? Would that change your mind, or would you still be like, you know what, I'm going to play? I could play it on PC eventually. I don't care.
It's either I can play it on PC eventually, or I'm even more than that. I'm convinced that every single game is going to be streamed to any device. Simple as that. Like it just won't matter. So even if they have that type of Game Pass, service on offer, I think that'd be great. But I'm not going to buy a console for it. Like I'm just, at the end of the day, I'm not enough of a fan of Sony's first party titles to justify it anymore in my mind. I have the PlayStation, I've got all their bangers, and I'll bet you I've turned that system on for 80 hours or less this whole gen. That's just me. Like anyone else, that's their main console. The thing's a banger. It's got great first party titles. It's got all the multiplats. Multiplats will never, ever, ever, ever be played on a Sony system for me. It's just not my main system. It's not. So it's exclusives only. They no longer make the games that I feel is worth buying an entire console to get at. And I would probably still do it if that was the only choice, which it used to be in the past. It was a too bad. That's the only way. And now with today's technology, today's streaming technology, and I feel the full on embracing of releasing games on PC, it's not needed anymore. I don't need to play or need to own a Sony console to start playing Sony games in the future. So why own one? Like I'm not that crazy that it needs to be native. Otherwise, God of War is not so great. Like everyone says that streaming probably works best with single player games, not multiplayer. So Sony's games will probably stream better than Xbox's multiplayer games would stream. So, I mean, that's the only reason I wouldn't get a PlayStation, is just we don't need it anymore. I don't need it anymore. There's other options coming. And I think Sony's 100% going to embrace it. This Switch news, it doesn't surprise me, but I think it's kind of a half-assed step. Like Tim Dog said, you still need to own a PlayStation console, which is a console I no longer want to own. in order to stream those games to a Switch, which arguably is another console that I didn't want to own. I just want the games. I don't want the console. I want the games. But that's the way it was last gen, so I bought them all. But next gen, I'm convinced even Nintendo's going to be on board with this type of stuff. It made me question a few things, though. Like, what is Nintendo going to get out of allowing Sony to do this? If you can play The Witcher and buy it on Sony's platform, but then you can stream it to your Switch, what does Nintendo get out of that? Same with the new Doom that's about to drop. Like, outside of maybe we can start selling more Switches to PlayStation diehards, and when they have one, they might buy Mario and Mario Kart and Smash Bros. And Zelda. Other than that, maybe and might. I don't know why Nintendo would even bother. And I know that they have like a history with Sony. They're not good friends. They were once supposed to work together.
Yes, and that was a sour relationship.
That's where the PlayStation came from. If that deal had gone good, it would have been Nintendo and Sony as a partner our entire gaming lives, essentially, as opposed to what it is now. It's because Nintendo essentially told them to go F themselves. We're not working with you, right? But Sony did, and they ended up like just dominating in a lot of ways. So kudos to them on that. But the way of the future, I'm convinced of it, is consoles are no longer the only way to have access to all three companies' ecosystems, which is the way they used to. If you wanted to play a Nintendo game, you needed a Nintendo console. If you wanted to play a Sony-made game, you needed a Sony console. Xbox was the first to break out of that and start putting their games everywhere. And even though they only have half the consoles out there that the PlayStation does, the money that's coming into the departments here, it's only a few billion less. That's like 12.
Yes, it is. It's
10,
it's crazy how close it is.
That's right. It's very close. So in order to be able to do that with your games everywhere and half the consoles, Microsoft's obviously doing something right. Sony's not stupid. PlayStation is their bread and butter, and it's not the console. The ecosystem is their bread and butter, and they're looking to expand that ecosystem and put their games on PC day and date. I'm convinced of it, especially with the last couple here. I could see Last of Us 2 going to PC at launch. That thing's not selling PlayStation 4s anymore. If you want a PlayStation 4, you have one. If you didn't go buy one new in the store today, which is like $200 or whatnot, you can get one used for even less. They're so cheap. Everyone's got one.
Get one for $100.
That's right. We're at maximum saturation of consoles for this generation, really. So Last of Us 2 also brought up was you get the maximum profit selling it day one when it's $60, not discounted, not a year later on PC,
and not
when
included
it's
in a
old
bundle pack either.
That's right, and discounted, exactly, not given away in a bundle, but actually sold for $60. That's your biggest return. So why not put it on every platform imaginable? Of course, outside of Xbox and Switch, like you don't put it on your rival console, but put it onto the PC. PlayStation's going to start doing it. You're going to have an app just like Xbox where you sign in with your PlayStation profile on a PC, and you can buy all their games through the PC and stream them either to that PC or stream them to a tablet or a phone. Like you can do that right now with Xbox. It's just the way things are going. We're no longer restricted to one device to have access here. And I think that's a fantastic thing for everyone out there that's true diehard. They need to play every game natively. Otherwise, to hell with it. Kudos to them. The option is still there to buy different devices. It's totally fine. But I think that the ecosystem's expanding in total and not just relying on people that either want the console outright or people like me that are literally forced into buying it if I want to play the few games that I did. It's not needed anymore. Now, like I can save all that money that I spent on a PlayStation, of which Sony made maybe $20 on the console. If it was new, I bought it used, so they made $0. But all that money saved, I can be buying Sony games day and date as they launch and stream them to me, and they'll make all that money. Like the console cost will cover all the exclusive games for me, the whole gen basically. So it's just so much better as an option for me, myself. There's good internet where I live, so I'm expecting some good streaming going down. Sony is paying Microsoft money. They're paying their competition money to have access to their streaming technology.
A lot of money to work
like,
to run off the Azure servers.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's for a reason, and I choose to take advantage of that option myself. I think Nintendo is going to be doing the same thing. All three companies have come out essentially and said, look, consoles are niche. It may be a big niche, 150 plus million niche, but that's it. No, we're not getting more people constantly. That's where it kind of taps out. Meanwhile, everyone's got a phone in their pocket that can do it. Same with your tablets, same with your computers and stuff. Streaming is here, it's working. Let's get that money. And these companies are They know it. Like, as much as we're used to walled gardens, Nintendo's even like a castle with a moat and the drawbridge up with armed guards on the towers. They're looking to like decommission some of that protection, because letting their games out, and the games are where the true profit lies, letting them out to more people is only going to bring in more money at the end of the day. So it doesn't surprise me that they asked this question. Although I think that streaming is a better option. I don't need to own a PlayStation in order to console stream it, if you will, remote play it to another device. So it's a nice half step. There's a lot of Switches out there. Maybe it does get people to even buy more Switches. All those PlayStation guys that just want to play on the go on a device that has controllers built in. Not everyone's on board with using their phone. It's small. It doesn't have a controller with it, yada, yada. It might work both ways. I don't know. I think the industry is growing in great ways, not frightening ways for me. There's no skies falling over here at the Sesh Empire, man. It's just the light is brighter than it's ever been. I can't even look directly into it. Gaming's future is going to be glorious. We're getting more games at a cheaper price than ever before because of these services and whatnot. If you don't need to own them, it's fantastic. I love it. I hope that they do put their games on Switch. I hope that, like, via this way, I hope that eventually you can stream everything to the Switch. I hope that we could stream PlayStation games to the Xbox. I hope you can stream Xbox games to your PlayStation. I just don't care about that stuff at the end of the day. I want a console that works for me and plays the games that I like. That's it.
No, I mean, everyone. I mean, you had a lot of great points, dude. There's no doubt about it. Forte, I want to go to you next on this one, because my question to you is a simple one, but I think you're going to have a very complex time answering it. How quick do you think Sony first-party games launch on PC day and date, just because of the big number that we all keep talking about? If people are not sure, there's a disparity of only a few $1 million. And I'm not talking about 2 million. It's probably 10 or 20 million dollars, but it's a significant amount. I said million. I think more like we're talking billions. But the reason why Microsoft should be dwarfed in regards to the monies compared to Sony is because Sony sold 106 million consoles this generation, and the amount of software that they sold is record breaking. And we know that Microsoft suffered significantly this generation with their first party output. I mean, some of the games, I bought them all. I beat them all. I beat every one of them. But a lot of people didn't buy them. You know why? Because some of them played in 720. Some of them played at 900p, and that was like a big deal for people. I happen to enjoy them. Were they on par with Sony's? No. Let's call a spade a spade. But in your opinion, being someone that's in the industry from a financial point of view, because you sell these consoles in your store, how quickly do you think that Jim Ryan wants to see that money increase for their first-party software sales, not just on the PlayStation brand?
All right, so that's a two-prong answer. So the first thing I will say is, not even thinking about PS5 sales when it comes to those games, since they will more than likely be backwards compatible to it.
Yes.
It really depends on what the adoption rate of those games on PS4 when they first release, and then conjunction to when they, like you said, I do believe it will be a free update for anybody that has those games on PS4.
Yes.
You will get a free update that will give you the ability to play those games at higher frame rates, higher resolution and stuff on the PS5. But there will be a disc that says PS5 on the case.
There's no doubt about it.
There will be one for the because once PS5 drops, all of those games that came out close enough to the beginning of the new generation, they're going to repackage those games. You won't see them except for a used case that says PS4 on it. You won't see a PS5. You won't see PS4 on those games. You'll see PS5. And then it comes down to that. Now, the other part of this is really just going to speak to, I say 1 year,
okay,
but it depends on the adoption rate of those games throughout that year. I would say it's a 1 year with a caveat of being 6 to 7 months. Because if those systems, if the game sells extremely well, if you get something like Spider-Man that sells 14 million, or like when Last of Us comes out, if it sells 14 million through the holiday, they may hold off a year. They may make that something that could come out next holiday and bring it to the PC. If it doesn't sell as well, it sells probably 10 million. And we're saying not as well, like 10 million isn't a lot because it is. But if say it sells 8 to 10 million, you might see a more bigger push to want to bring it out earlier. Maybe they'll bring it out as an E3 thing, saying, hey, and guess what? Anybody that wants to play Last of Us on PC, you can do it this day in the middle of the summer. You know, nice. So that's what I really think, because at this point right now, people like to hold arguments and have conversations about stuff that they truly, really don't know about. You know, when people keep saying, why would you want to copycat the losing console? Guess what? It's the losing console every generation that makes the biggest strides in the next generation, because they have everything to gain and nothing to lose.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, as of right now, you know, PlayStation has been they're king, they're dominant. Everybody can agree with that. Microsoft is making all of these moves that they have to make because they have to make those moves. So now, as the next generation starts, Sony's going to stand pat because they believe in their tried and true formula of, you want to play our games, you buy our system. That's their formula. Microsoft has acquiesced to that. They said, you know what? We understand that you are a powerhouse when it comes to selling these consoles, but our forte and our competency is when it comes to services. So our services are what's going to help us drive the narrative through next generation. And trust me, the narrative hasn't even begun. The conversation, the fight, the battle is only beginning. Once the new generation starts, you're going to see. You thought you seen a bunch of advertisements for Game Pass and stuff now. When these new systems start releasing, the closer and closer you get to November and October, you're going to see TV spots, because I really don't see TV spots for Game Pass. I see it on my console because I own it. I see it on YouTube because that's a good place to market the stuff. But when it comes to like the outside public, if it's not me telling somebody in a store like, hey, get Game Pass, it's literally worth. And we don't get the discount. They don't get the discount when they buy it in the store. They're paying full price for it. I sold Game Pass to people that didn't even know it was a thing. I said, dude, you get 300 games for like $60 for 6 months, because that's how much it is for the 6 months membership. And they buy it every time. Wait till they let the masses start seeing that. Then you're going to really see how many people are truly loyal to that console that they bought 7 years ago because they didn't like the direction of Xbox, because those are the ones they're trying to win back. So Sony's going to probably be forced into making the decision faster than they want to. And like Kid Smooth said earlier, when you're a company and you're looking at other companies and you got 106 million systems out there, and you're only making 25 to 30% more revenue than the one that has half your sales, that right there, and it's
that's
not
cause
because
for alarm.
That's cause for alarm.
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo literally makes more money than Sony because they have an attach rate of 12.66 compared, and they don't even count digital sales.
Wow.
They don't even count this. So just imagine what their real attach rate is once they start count, if they ever did count digital sales. 12.66 compared to Sony's 9.3, 9.4 last time we heard of it. You know, Xbox is down there in the 7s. That's fine. But guess what? They're in the 7s, but they also have another revenue stream that Sony doesn't have. And that's what makes up that massive gap between 50 million systems. So when Jim Ryan looks at that and he says, hey, financial advisor, why aren't we doing this? Okay, well, why aren't we doing this? Well, guess what? Our player base might riot on us. You know what? They will. So let's ease them into it, just like they did all these Xbox fans, because guess what? Nobody on this panel liked what Microsoft was doing when they first started doing it. It was until we got really used to it and started understanding what Microsoft was trying to do. And then we saw that value proposition hit. Once that value proposition hit, all the Xbox fans got in line. They was like, you know what? This is a deal for me. Why am I going to complain about a deal?
Yeah.
So that's the thing that Sony fans are going to soon have to get used to.
Yeah.
And it's going to come faster than they think because Microsoft's pushing a narrative that nobody else has ever pushed before. And if it works, which I think it will, because holidays coming, people want to spend less money, but they want to play games just as much. And if that happens, we're going to see this number get bigger and bigger, and Sony will sooner or later follow suit.
How long do you think we're out, honestly, until Sony and Microsoft are allowing you to stream your games over xCloud and PS Now? Every game you own that game, you can stream it, and it's cloud stream, not remote play. But I think we're like a year away at most.
I think
I was gonna say 2 years.
I was
like
I
with
would
xCloud
say,
a year, right? You think?
I would say as soon as I put it this way, once xCloud is officially launched globally, within 6 months of that, you will see it.
That every game you own, you get to play.
Every
so
game
I think Sony will be close behind that. There'll be 6 months at most, right?
Yep,
6 months to a year. So at that time, as soon as you can buy a game from the Sony ecosystem and stream it to your tablet, your phone, or your PC, that's the day they're going to start releasing everything across the board on PC day and date, because you no longer need a console. If you're a streamer and you want to stream games, you don't need a PlayStation already. All those Korean gamers we talked about earlier that are loving the xCloud more than us Americans, those type of gamers, they want to sell those games day and date. Day one, if you're a streamer only and the new hotness is coming out, they don't want those guys to wait 6 months or a year. They want that money today at its maximum $60 value. So it's going to go for sale on stream, same day as console. That'll be when it goes to PC.
Well, you saw the pre-order for Death Stranding went live on PC over the last couple of days.
Yes, and it's been selling pretty well.
It's pretty cool. And then Detroit Become Human, and Detroit Become Human is up on Epic. So
yes.
You know,
you think they're going to try and sell these for full price? You think Horizon's going to try and launch at 60 on PC?
Right now.
Yeah. Oh, dude,
I say no way.
It can't be. I don't think it will.
No.
$40 maybe.
Yeah, $40 is too much, I think, too.
PC is cheaper than console on average anyways for a brand new title, and to come out 3 years later, I'm expecting like 50% off entry level.
I don't know,
I was thinking like $19.99.
The funny thing about PC gamers though is the adoption. See, I can see it right out the back being $60, but if you're willing to wait a couple of weeks or a month, then you'll see that massive drop. Because
if it come out too expensive, they'll just pirate it. It's a single player game.
Well, no, they're gonna pirate it.
They'll just download the bad boy and who cares?
Grand Theft Auto came out a whole calendar year later. Detroit Become Human came out a whole year. Well, what's the name was 3 years.
But they have like Detroit massive online ecosystems and stuff. Was Detroit full price on PC?
What you say?
Was Detroit full price on PC?
Yeah, it's full price on Epic.
What? Yeah. Full price. Yeah,
it's full price on Epic, bro. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
That.
Because this is the thing that people aren't real, and I'm not saying you guys ain't real. I'm just saying in general, when it comes to a game that was never available on that platform, it is a reason for you to spend. Because you would, unless you were going to go, because you're going to look at it like this: are you going to spend $400 for that game? Plus buying it, or are you gonna pay just $60 just to play it on the platform?
Yeah, there is that. I'm like, usually they also include all the DLC. So
and that's the thing, they did include all the DLCs and stuff. Like the Horizon one is the complete edition, so it has every piece of the content that came out for that game.
Yeah, that helps a bit, of course. Yeah.
You know what? I mean, listen, let me get Cybernox in here. Cybernox, first of all, this is your first show back in, my goodness, it's got to be almost 10 weeks. So it's fitting that you close out tonight's incredible, episode of Primetime Gaming with this. Now, Jim Ryan, he is a businessman through and through. And the numbers came out for Microsoft. Now, we knew that they were going to be down. They were down 43% in console sales. That's to be expected. I mean, I think they're all, except for Nintendo, even Sony had a drop because, everyone that wants a PlayStation probably owns a PlayStation. But when the numbers came to Game Pass, now, remember, Microsoft doesn't let us know. We have no idea. But there was if you remember a couple of months ago when we talked about it on this show, the rumor was 10 million, right? 10 to 12 million. I think, Tim, you talked about this on RDX. We don't know for sure, but we were, let's lowball say 10 million. They doubled. They doubled the amount of subscriptions service paying members. So is it 20 million? Now, again, I don't know. I'm just speculating, but they said in the conference call, they doubled the numbers. Jim Ryan's got to be seeing this and saying, wait a second. Wait just a second. They doubled their numbers. Now, granted, PlayStation Now went up significantly too, but they're still, from the last numbers I was able to find on it was under 2 million. 2 million as opposed to 106 million. That's not really that good, to be honest with you. And I'm sure that they would want, now if let's say, for instance, it is 20 million for Microsoft and there are only 50 million consoles, man, that's 40-something%. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal. Do you see Sony pushing the envelope to get their games day and date either in a service or at least on PC day and date, so they could make back this money, the millions and millions of dollars that they spent to produce these games?
100%. 100%. They're just kind of like what everybody alluded to, earlier. They're just leaving money on the table. It doesn't make any sense. Jim Ryan came in, he shook up their executives at the corporate level, and they're just, they got to change their mindset. I don't remember which year it was. I don't know if it's 2019 or 2018 when they compared the end of the year between Xbox and Microsoft. I think Xbox was like at 11 billion and PlayStation was like a 15 or 17 billion.
Yes.
And if you compare the ratio of install base out there, it's not a big difference. They have two and a half more consoles out there than Xbox, and Xbox is literally almost keeping up with them in the dollar amount. They're doing something extremely right by the customers, and PlayStation just sees it. They just see that they're leaving money out on the table. They know they need to adapt. They know that players and gamers want to play their games wherever they want. We're not just limited to one hardware anymore. We all have PCs. We all have consoles.
Well, I don't. I have a Surface Pro 4. But go ahead, keep going.
But precisely that, right? So you have a Surface Pro 4. But imagine if PS Now allowed you to play on your a game day and date, on your Surface Pro.
That I could stream. That would be kind of dope. Yeah, that would be dope.
Game changer. And it kind of like what I said earlier too. They're leaving money out when their games are coming out day and day on PS Now. More subscription services. There's going to be a lot more people signing up for it, and that's the way they're headed. They're seeing the success from Xbox Game Pass. I said it when I first heard the news of Xbox Game Pass. I was like, this is going to be a game changer for the game industry. There was a lot of people who were skeptical of it in the beginning, but you can't deny the value of it now. There is absolutely no way. You couldn't deny the value of it then. When they first announced it, they said all of our first party games are going to come out day and day on Game Pass for $9.99 a month at that time.
It's funny. I just want to elaborate on what you're saying and why what you're saying makes sense. Okay, now just imagine this for a second. Let's just say that Sony has 10 games available that are exclusive, right? I'm not talking about they're re-releasing The Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima. No. I'm saying you're going to get some indie games. You're going to get some second-party games. Blue Point apparently is working on 2 games that are going to be launch titles, right? So let's just say, for instance, there are 10 in total. As a PlayStation fan, myself, this is me, I'm buying the console, an extra controller, and every fucking game that they're releasing. End the story. No questions asked. That's what Mr. Boomstick XL
every
is
effing
doing.
game, guys. You hear that?
Yes, I even cursed. How you like them apples?
Every effing game that releases, he's buying.
Day one. Right, day one, right? But what's interesting and why I think Sony needs to change immediately is because this. You are a PlayStation owner, and that PlayStation 5 is $499. You're a casual gamer, right? You're not the hardcore that's right now on this panel, and the 300 and almost 350 people still here as we're going to close out this show, right? But if you looked over at the Xbox and you said, well, wait a second, they have 2 SKUs. One's $590, $499. I really can't afford that because I can't afford the PlayStation one. But they have a $299 system. It's just a little bit less powerful than the PS5. but I can go home with the 3-month rumored Xbox Game Pass card in there and download their 12 games immediately, not having to spend anything but that initial console investment. Folks, do you understand how big this is going to be for that casual audience moving into the next generation? That is why Microsoft has been pushing and banging this drum. But continue, please.
No, that's pretty much it. I can foresee it. And they've been dipping their toes on the waters right now. They introduced God of War, to PS Now, only for a limited time, right?
Yeah, 3 months, I think it was.
I think eventually it will change. It's permanently going to stay on there.
Hopefully.
They did that. You're now able to download your games to your PS4. So they're trying to ease in. They're trying to ease in their consumer base to this new direction that they're going in, and it just makes sense that they're going the same route that Xbox is going to.
Well, listen, everyone had incredible points. I have to thank the nearly 350 people that turned in. Well, we actually had almost 370. We had 370. We broke 370 today. I want to thank you all for being here. The chat was completely on fire. It is great to read the chat. And again, not everyone has to agree, but for the most part, people pretty much stayed legit. And obviously, I have a few moderators in there, and I have to shout them out. Lethal Papa being like the main one that's here each and every night, every time I do a show. So Lethal, thank you so much for that. He does keep it. Again, I normally don't like to curse. I will throw an F-bomb in there like I did a few minutes ago. But for the most part, if you come to this chat, listen, I want everyone to understand, no matter what flag you fly, you're welcome. You're welcome to come here, hang out, but just be civil, man. Even if you don't have the same opinion, even if you just love Sony or love Xbox or you just love Nintendo, you don't have to be a dick about it. So just be cool, hang out, have some fun, get your opinion out there. And, I obviously tonight was a little difficult to me. I'd like to say hello to everyone and welcome everybody. It just was overwhelming because I was trying to do all the graphics and everything. Xbox Battlegrounds drops a $5 super chat. He says, great show, brother. Congratulations. Well, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. So let's get everybody out of here. First of all, I want to start with Tim Dog. Tim Dog, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out. I love having you on the show. Love the wealth of knowledge regarding the Xbox brand that you bring to every show that you're on, including, of course, RDX, which you'll be there tomorrow night. Do me a favor, Tim. Tell everyone where they can follow you on Twitter and argue with you or not, depending. And and we're going to be able to hang out once again at E3 2020.
Yes. You can find me on Twitter, xCloud, Tim Dog. Thank you guys for having me on your show. Everyone's very knowledgeable. Great panel, great people. To the people in the chat, thanks for everything. Sub to the people on the chat in this panel. The people who make content, sub and support. This is good people. Boom, great job. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I'll be on RDX tomorrow, 8 p.m.
Yeah, well, can't wait for that. I'm looking forward to hearing what Dealer, Colt, D Batch, Zolker 87, Jay Fonzarelli, and yourself bring to the table, and whatever guests he's going to have on. So I'm looking forward to that. Kid Smooth, first of all, Kid, thanks so much for showing up. Really appreciate you taking the time to be here. You're another Xbox fan that does speak from the heart. You appreciate what the brand does, and you are certainly not shy about putting that brand on a pedestal. Love what you do on your YouTube channel and really what you do within the community. Please do tell me and everyone else where they can follow you on Twitter, but more importantly, sub to your outstanding YouTube channel.
Oh man. I'm here.
No, thanks again, Boom, for having me. I'm sorry I came late, but you guys can follow me on Twitter at Kid Smooth and also my YouTube, Kid Smooth, Planet Xbox podcast.
Yes,
Wednesday nights,
nice,
8:30 p.m. Eastern. So.
Well, thank you for being here. And of course, not to be outdone. First of all, if you don't sub to this man's channel, then you're selling yourself short. He is someone not only that I highly respect, someone that I actually cannot wait to meet in person this June, someone that is an outstanding community member who has love and respect for everyone, even if you don't agree with his opinion, and someone that's one of the most busiest podcasters in the business, Gaming Forte. Do me a favor, dude, tell everyone where they can follow you, but more importantly, check out your very active YouTube channel.
Look, man, I told myself over a year ago, I was like, I'm not going to be doing like 5 podcasts in 1 week.
And here you are.
And I literally like I picked up, I did RDX last week with Tim Dog, and that was a blast.
That was a lot of fun. That was a great show.
That was a lot of fun being on there. And then just every other show. But it's like when you're around just people that like talking about the same stuff you like talking about, you kind of find the time to do it. And that's what's most important to me, because outside of family and that, I work around games every day. I come home, play games. I'm just all about games. So, that's all that really matters to me. But man, I really appreciate it. As always, it is Gaming Forte on YouTube, gaming_ on Twitter. And thanks for all the support on the videos too, man. Because for a while I was just trying to find a reason to make videos, but ever since Microsoft started turning the message around, because I'm an Xbox fan through and through. I play on PC a lot, but that's because Microsoft really wasn't giving me a reason to play on Xbox as much. But I am super excited for this next gen, and that energized me to start bringing more content to the channel just to talk about the thing I love the most, which is my friends in Xbox. So you guys have a great week. As always, we'll see you next week. I'm also on the Basement Radio podcast every Wednesday with Enrique. He's actually not a drunk, guys. We just be making fun of him. So let's put that out there, because he thinks people think he really is.
No, he's not an alcoholic at all.
He
was a little tipsy that day.
Exactly. And then Friday nights. And then Friday nights with my man Mooch, we do that Crossfire thing on 7 o'clock that day, which you guys already know. And then whenever Luca needs me, I'm on Scumcast with her at 8 o'clock Eastern. So check all those channels out, man. You won't be disappointed. And we'll see you next week.
Well, thank you so much. And Shady, first of all, dude, thank you so much for being here. Really super appreciate that you're on 2 of the shows that I do weekly. Can't wait to do Breakfast with Boom. I am planning the show as we speak. We're going to have a lot of really cool guests, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Do me a favor. Tell me and tell everyone else where they can follow you on Twitter, and if you're going to be guest appearing on any other upcoming episodes.
Sounds good, Boom. As always, it's a great time coming on to these shows you got going, talking games each and every week. It's Friday morning, Breakfast with Boom. Monday evenings, Primetime Gaming. Those are my 2 mainstays. I'm currently not guesting on anything up and coming, so nothing to announce there. But you can find me on Twitter at the Sesh Empire. Stand up, hit that follow button, become an agent of the organization. I'm the resident mouthpiece, if you will, over there. That's where I can be, gotten a hold of pretty easy. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Listen to us talk games. You power the show. Take it easy on the fanboy stuff, the zealotry, if you will, because I'll find you. I'll find you, and I'll choke out that zealot throat. Other than that, man, thank you again for everyone coming out. Happy gaming. I'll talk to you all soon.
Well, thanks so much again. And certainly last, but in no way least, making his triumphant return to Primetime Gaming, Cybernox, dude, we missed you significantly. Glad that you are back in your chair, which I told you would be waiting for you. I kept it nice and toasty warm because I sat in it every now and again to make sure that when you got there, the seat was going to be toasty. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on Twitter, but more importantly, check out you, I believe, on Twitch or Mixer, and also your YouTube channel.
Hey, Boom, I appreciate that so much, man. It feels fantastic to be back here, just talking games with you guys. It's kind of like what Forte said. I just love talking about this stuff, with people with the same passions that I have for gaming. But yeah, I'm easy. Cybernox across the board. I'm on Twitter. More actively on Twitter, Cybernox on Xbox Live, on Twitch if you want to follow me there, and on YouTube. I'm editing my my most anticipated games of 2020 video right now, so keep an eye out for that. And
Nice.
Also, if you're, I also have a second channel. It's called the Xbox Game Pass Club, where I randomly pick a game from Xbox Game Pass. We'll give that game a go, and pretty much like a game, like a book club, we'll discuss it. After we're done with the game, we'll discuss how we felt about the game. It's something cool
Nice.
to break, away from gamer fatigue. We get stuck playing the same old games here and there. So it's a good little break from doing that, and just play a game that you probably wouldn't have played before. So yeah, I appreciate you, Boom. I appreciate this whole panel here. It was a fantastic show. I appreciate the chat. I'll see you guys next week.
Man, I will tell you something. When you said that idea a couple of weeks ago when you was on, the last time you was on,
yeah,
I actually did it, and I did it on PC, and it gave me Frostpunk, and I enjoy every bit of that game ever since I did it.
Yeah, man.
So
it's an awesome
definitely
experience.
just hit that button and spin it and play something different. You'd be surprised how much it actually changes your mindset on a bunch of these games out here that you never tried before.
Yeah, and then if you get a community to go ahead and play it, eventually that community grows, and now everybody's discussing this game and talking about what we like, what we didn't like. It becomes something unique, and it becomes something cool, man. And
something different.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it's all about community at the end of the day. And I'll throw this out there before we get everyone out. If you haven't played A Plague's Tale, God damn it, go out and play that game right now. It's one of 2019's most hidden gems, and it's a complete masterpiece. The story is unbelievable, and it is just graphically, I put it this way, if you are a Sony fan who enjoys that adult-themed third-person action adventure kind of a game, this is definitely for you. And if you liked Hellblade, this is something you should definitely check out. But listen, I want to thank everyone once again. Please treat others how you want to be treated. And guess what, folks? It doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and friends. Take care.
Best outro.